Nobody ever buys.
We eventually rented the house, but like when you go in there, it's kind of dark. It's a little. It's not everyone's style.
Yeah.
But anyway, I showed you and Maya. I think you eventually rented something else. But,
yeah, I was up in Hollywood Hills right around then. Yeah, 2009.
Yeah. But
that's funny.
I had recognized you when I met you in person from the Millionaire Matchmaker show.
Okay, yeah. So you're
that's where you recognized
you know
it
me
from?
like old school.
Yeah, this is
Holy
before.
cow.
This is before everything. Before you were on YouTube.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
I think I was looking back. I joined Twitter like in 08 or 09. That was my begin. I remember being like, I'm gonna mess with this social media thing. Didn't do YouTube. Insta wasn't a thing. I was like,
what were you doing before then? Because when I spoke with Maya, she was saying you did some tall productions or there's
promotion. Yeah. So I had.
What was it?
So I had a company on the East Coast. One of my first businesses was a big nightlife company in North Carolina. I partnered with this guy who owned all these restaurants. I ran the nightlife. So I had this promotions company. I still have it. And
Really?
So yeah, that's kind of the old days. That's got me. I always tell people the way to start, it's like at the beginning, there's a progression to making money. And I know a lot of people say you shouldn't sell your time for money, but it's not realistic. And actually at the beginning, you do sell your time for money. I mean, Bill Gates started as a teenager. He was selling his time for money, rebuilding the payroll system for his school, Elon Musk was doing that kind of, everybody hustles at the beginning doing that kind of thing. And then over time, hopefully you grow out of that phase. But I was still a little bit in that phase probably when I met you.
Where did you start?
I started on a farm.
Yeah?
On a farm, man. Old school. Out of high school, I didn't have quite enough money to go to school. I had some scholarships to colleges, but this guy, Joel Salatin, who's now he's become pretty famous. He's like the most famous farmer, organic kind of farmer. And he had an apprenticeship open. And I was like, okay.
Og jeg visste ikke at han var ute. Nei, I dag så var det ikke så bra. Jeg var i puls med 7000, så tappte jeg 9.
He cut a hole in the floor and put a bucket under there. He's like, every once in a while, you're going to have to empty that in the forest. So I did that I did manual labor for a couple of years. But the second year I was with him, there was a farmer that came to Joel and said, I don't know what to do with my land. And Joel said, I'm too busy, and just turned the guy down. I don't know even what the guy, and I went to Joel, that I was a teenager, and I said, Joel, I'll work for you all day, and that night I'll go take care of that farm. If we split the money, we do a business together. So he bought a whole bunch of cattle. I didn't have money. First time using other people's money. He bought like $50,000 worth of cattle. I took care of them. I used to put a little. I would work at his farm from like 5 in the morning to 5 at night, and then I would put this like headlamp. It was before people really had headlamps. I like mounted into like a little flashlight, rubber band in my head, would go take care of this farm.
Så at jeg har 23 spredd på
$12,000 in a year. I mean, that was the most money I've ever seen. I graduated high school in a mobile home, so I was like, 12 grand was a lot. And so that was the first business. Then I came back to the city. Then I lived with the Amish for 2.5 years. So that was no electricity.
Wait, in the city?
No, before the city. So after Joel, then I did 2.5. So I was gone from like the regular world for almost 5 years, 4 or 5 years. Then I came back to the city. And
how did you get linked up with the Amish? What made you choose that?
When I was at Joel's farm was famous. People come from all over the world. I met the prime minister of like Russia came. It was all this. But the Amish used to come there. And I was fascinated. I didn't have a very happy childhood. And the Amish are like super.
Jeg skjønner ikke noe av bevegelsen I dag.
And so I guess I was fighting my demons. And I was like.
Jeg spiser jo så klart stekt til mat. Stekt hår I stedet for mat. Ta den kjørsel på.
That were peaceful. And so I lived with the Amish. It was a very cathartic experience, I guess you'd say. Because like growing up, like I didn't know families didn't yell at each other. I didn't know any of that. Like I went to the Amish, I'm like, wow, there are actual peaceful marriages. And my dad was married multiple times, so was my mom. Stepdad, so and a single mom. So it was probably. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gone to the Amish. I think I would have been a better businessman. More ruthless.
So you're with the Amish for 2.5 years, you said?
Yeah, I was there
Did you just find like a foster home?
Yeah, it's hard.
Really? And you just helped them out, churn the butter?
I heard they don't let like outsiders in.
They don't really, but I knew about farming. And so there were a lot of farmers, and they knew Joel Salatin. So they're like, it was kind of like, maybe this guy will show me what Joel taught him. I remember the first Amish farm I went to was Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was insane. I
Ja,
took a
precis,
bus
det.
there because I didn't have any money.
klart,
I didn't have a car. I took a bus there and I got out and it was like going back to the 1700s. I walked into this barn and there was a guy like shoveling apple pomace. It's like the peelings of apple, and he had little kids and they were all wearing like hats, and then we worked there, and then I went in the house. I'm like, here's a room, and the first thing you do in like a room is to flip the light switch, but they don't have electricity. There's no light switches, so you're like, and you got to go light a candle, and they got little lanterns. But it's good, man. It's a great life. In fact, I interviewed, there's a guy, Jared Diamond. He wrote a famous book, Guns, Germs, and Steel. I was interviewing him a couple years ago, and he's like, oh, you know the Amish? He goes, I studied the Amish. They have 500% less depression than the mainstream community. He was very fascinated, and I was like, it's true. It's the happiest people I've ever met. So I think that, the modern world there's this Sigmund Freud, the founder of modern psychology. He said civilization and its discontents, like the social structure that we live in. Basically, we live longer because we're in a modern civilization, but we're less happy. We're not as connected to nature. We're not connected to community. Amish grew up, there's no divorce. But you're around your uncles and your aunts, and you're in part of a bigger community. You marry people people aren't people are lonely now, man. I mean, the modern world fosters loneliness, even for entrepreneurs. I very rarely, I've kind of gone, my life, people don't realize, I've gone from like one extreme, like the Amish, and I've done the Beverly Hills thing and, making a lot of money. And basically what you want is some of the best of the modern world, but I sometimes miss that a lot, just like the peace,
Why did you decide to leave?
Because, ultimately I wasn't Amish and their religion, and so eventually you kind of have to stay and get married. But sometimes I wonder if my life's really better that I left. I mean, certainly you got more stuff now, but I think that the old cliche that money isn't everything is true. I kind of go by this good life thing. Like life's the 4 pillars of the good life, like health, wealth, love, happiness. And really what your job is, if you want a good life, is the ratio of those things, those pillars. And that's very hard. Like the greatest people in the world to me are people who figure out those ratios. I was just in Scandinavia. I live part-time in Sweden and Denmark. Now, that you can argue their ratios maybe are better than here. So like Sweden has 5 times the billionaires per capita of America. But they're also way happier people, So at that point I was like deep down the happiness kind of pillar of the good life. Living on a farm, quiet, good people, but I didn't know how to make money really, Then I've gone all the way to the other extreme where you're like really good at making money, but you're missing out, Most entrepreneurs, it's like I knew an entrepreneur, he was worth a couple $1 billion, but he was so out of shape, bad health, diabetic. The guy was bedridden. And I remember thinking, it's like all the money nobody would trade for that guy. If I told you can give you $2 billion in your bank account, but you can't get out of bed, you wouldn't trade. Right. So I have this thing now. It's just my life. I call it the substitution rule. So who do I envy? It's like Elon Musk. It's like I respect Elon Musk, but I don't envy him. I think the life that's, even he says it, it's like very out of the 4 pillar ratios, or just your app. You know how you have this fish thing? Right. So I own a lot of farmland now. And just like that app for your fish tank has the alkalinity ratio, acid to alkaline, and yours is supposed to be 7.9, which is pretty alkaline. Like that's how your life has to be. Like you have to really get that. And it's easy to outrace your headlights. So either people don't have enough money and they have all this other stuff. Maybe they have a nice family, or they got too much money and all the other stuff's lost.
But first, we got to thank our sponsor, Kudos.
Guys, Graham and I both have tons of credit cards.
And with a lot of credit cards comes tons of rewards and benefits.
But I know from personal experience, trying to maximize the rewards and benefits from each one of my unique credit cards is nearly impossible.
Yeah, exactly. For a while, I had over 10 credit cards, and trying to figure out and remember which ones to use where was extremely confusing. But thankfully, our sponsor, Kudos, is there to help. Kudos is a free smart wallet that guarantees you'll always get the most rewards and benefits out of your credit cards whenever you shop online.
No more struggling to pick the right card. Just shop like normal, and at checkout, Kudos will show you the best credit card to use to maximize your savings.
It's really a no-brainer because the average user unlocks $750 a year of extra value using Kudos. My favorite part of Kudos is that they even look for hidden rewards like travel insurance and purchase protection, benefits that you might not even know you had.
Like, I was buying flights the other day, and Kudos reminded me that checking out with the Amex Platinum would give me luggage insurance protection, which is huge.
So to celebrate for the holidays, we're partnering with Kudos, who's going to be giving the first 1,000 people who sign up before December 25th a $10 Amazon gift card.
All you have to do is click on the link down below in our description and use code ICH_holiday and then check out using the Kudos autofill feature, and you'll get the $10 Amazon gift card. Stop throwing away free money and shop smarter with Kudos with the link down below in the description. It is completely free. You get a $10 gift card. Thank you so much, Kudos, and back to the podcast.
What were some of the most shocking parts about moving in with the Amish people? Was it just like no technology, no cell phones or anything?
No family fightings.
That was
No
the most
one
shocking.
yelled. Yeah, because like I grew up like I didn't really like my dad was in prison when I was born. My mom was a single mom. You know, like peaceful families. I don't think a lot of people have that. Like you can ask an Amish kid, like, have you ever heard your dad yell at your mom? It's like, never. I still know I own some farms in the middle of that community. There's still Amish people who run them. Never heard an Amish guy raise his voice.
Are there any arguments? I mean, there have to be some sort of like
there are, but it's
somewhere,
just
right?
like, I mean, actually now there's a scientist is writing a book based on some of the stuff that I talked about. It's called Why Amish Babies Don't Cry, because Amish babies hardly cry. And so some of it now is actually genetic. There's a thing on a Hexaco score, which is the most modern assessment of your personality. It's like 25 subfacets. One of them is agreeableness. And so some people are just naturally more agreeable. And interestingly enough, a lot of the wealthiest people in the world are very low at agreeableness. And that's why there's this spectrum. It's like you can become a billionaire, but you might have to live a horrible life to get there. You know, or you can be like Amish. Yeah, so it's shocking. They're very agreeable people. You know?
Did you ever get bored? Like not having
No, you'll
TV
never get
or, like,
bored there.
no? Okay.
I was on a farm with
Yeah, but I was
9 horses, man. He's like horses. You have to like nature, right?
Sure.
So video game. I mean, I was into video games. I don't know. I'm not a person that gets bored. Okay. That's not I think it's genetic to get bored.
Oh, I think boring people get bored.
Yeah, boring. But I also think, so going back to that Hexaco thing, inquisitiveness is a genetic factor that you have. And so like some people, you can put them in the most fascinating scenarios, they're going to get bored. Other people, you stick them in a room. Like Joel Salatin, my first mentor, it was funny. You know, he's this farmer guy, and I had like all these Lambos and stuff, and I invited him to come speak at my conference, one of my first ones in 2014 or 2015. And I remember thinking, because he's not a materialistic guy. He's like, he's not going to like that I have all this. So the only car I had was a Lamborghini at the time, so I picked him up at the airport in a Lambo.
Is this the black one?
Yeah, it was a black one.
Gallardo?
It's a little black one I had. And he comes out, and I remember he walked, I had it parked in the parking spot, and he like walks around it 3 times, and he's like, he noticed like 100 things. All the gearhead car people, he noticed that, because he knows like farm tractors. He's like, this is basically a chassis with a little, and I remember thinking, he's a high inquisitive person. Like Joel will never be bored. You could stick him in a room with just a car, and he's going to dissect the whole thing. So I believe a lot of, there's a lot of genetic stuff about personality that we don't realize affects us. So I have my weaknesses, but getting bored isn't one of them.
And from those 2.5 years of your life that you spent secluded and on this Amish farm, what would you say is the biggest takeaway, or the thing that I guess benefited you for your career, for your personal life, or something from then on?
You need a life filled with a lot of people around you. And that we're too isolated. Like, don't be isolated. So live almost like in a village type of living. Like when I was doing all my social media here in my garage, like if you came to my house, there was probably 60 people there at any time. I like had my office in there. I had friends, people would come in and be like, what is this? And maybe it was like my little version of like Amish.
Wow.
Amish live in communities, like 150 people. There's
Is that ever
people,
stressful
right?
to be able to walk around, like, not get alone time?
Oh, Graham would
Yeah.
I
hate
hate
that.
it.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
Yeah, you would be over that.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So introverts and extroverts is kind of this concept you hear a lot about. It was invented by this Carl Jung, this Swiss. He invented actually the word introvert, extrovert. It's a myth how people think about it. Introverts like to be around people they trust and know. So a lot of the stress is with strangers, right? So obviously there's some people who don't even want to have 5 people they know, but I had people in my house I knew. That I wouldn't want 100 strangers rolling in and out of the house. That's actually why people are unhappy in cities like New York. You go to New York, you walk by 3,000 strangers, or London, everybody's in a bad mood. Jonathan Haidt wrote this book, and your cortisol levels just automatically go up. You're like in fight or flight mode, you know? You're like, this person might kill me subconsciously. Humans, we got this super primitive mind, you know? So I think I learned that from the Amish. Is that community is a thing. Build your tribe. Build your tribe.
So what happened after you left?
Then I went like completely opposite. I came back. I needed to make money. And that was when I was sleeping on my couch for like 47. I had like skills. I knew how to like milk cows and harness horses, right? So I was back, and I had one uncle, the only person in our family that ever made like 6 figures, except my dad. My dad made 6 figures at one point, but selling cocaine. So, but like legally, my uncle was a car salesman. And I remember him telling me I was sleeping on a couch and I was depressed. I had read this Tony Robbins book, Awaken the Giant Within, and he had this,
it's a
like,
great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. My mom gave it to me because I was like depressed. She's like, read this. And I remember thinking, how's this going to help me? And the one sentence was, when you succeed, you party, but when you fail, you ponder, and all greatness comes out of failure because it makes you rethink your life. So I was like, that's true. So I was smart enough. I had mentors on the farm. The Amish like mentors. They stop
Trapper opp dagsdag, men den der
So I was like, who's the number one
Nasdaq ødela litt i dag, da.
I knew that
Så jeg
knew how to
short
make money in
Nasdaq
the
nå.
world. Only person was my Uncle Bill. So I called him. I'm like, Uncle Bill, I'm stuck. I'm failing. I'm pondering. I got no money. I got less than $50. I'm basically homeless in a mobile home. He goes, 2 ways you can always make money, Ty. Sell cars or sell insurance. And I was like, I don't want to sell cars, because he had sold cars and he told me it was a depressing life where you're at like 16 hours a day. So I went in the phone book, and I knew that a phone book, like to get the full page thing, was like $50,000. I don't know how I knew that. And I just flipped through and I found first insurance person that had a full page ad. It was a guy named Mike Stainback. And I go, I'm going to call this guy. So I called him and I pretended like I needed insurance. I kind of did too, so it wasn't a total lie. Yeah. So I called, I set up appointment. We had this secretary, Kathy, and I showed up. And my uncle's like, make sure you like wear a suit. I don't have a suit. I went to a thrift store. I remember. I wish I had a picture of it. I have it somewhere. It had shoulder pads. It was the only one at the thrift store. It was like a woman's suit. It was like the office where I don't know, but it had shoulder pads. So I bought that thing. It was like $6. But I showed up at that office of Mike Stainback, and I was like, Kathy, it was a blue pinstripe suit, I think. And I go in the back, and Mike had this big mustache. And I was like, hey, Mike, I want to tell you, I'm interested in insurance. I don't have a lot of money, but I know you got a full-page ad here, so you're probably the richest guy I've ever met. And I said, if you will teach me what you know about making money, I'll work for you for free. And I remember he was this, I don't know, he had this big mustache. He looked like a movie star guy. And he was, Tom said, he was sitting on the side, and he, like, turned to me, and he was like, I've been looking for someone like you for 20 years. No. He goes, you got the right attitude. He goes, show up in the morning and I'll give you an office. So I was like, well, yeah. So I left, came back the next day. I'm expecting like an office. And he had taken a closet where he had a file cabinet, and he had stuffed a little teeny place to put my computer. And I remember going in there. It was so small. I had a chair. You try to lean back, you hit the wall. It was like, it was probably, it was a closet. And I started cold calling. That's why I tell people, if you study billionaires, wealthy people, 80% of them started in sales.
Yep.
So
that's how I started.
That's how you started.
I hated cold calling and door knocking. Yeah. Those were my least favorite. But Craigslist worked.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like Muhammad Ali said with sit-ups. He goes, I don't count them until they start to burn. But that's why he was the king. Like, he did sit-ups. A lot of people don't like to do sit-ups. So cold calling is like sit-ups. You don't like to do it, but if you do it, it trains you. So in the first week, I opened a deal that was like 100,000 of commissions. And Mike was in shock because he had promised me like 30% of the commission. And I was like, I'm going to make 30 grand and all this. So I literally overnight, I started to make a little bit of money, like 8-10 grand a month, which was like infinity for me.
That's not a little bit of money.
I was just like early 20s, man.
That's insane.
I was
like,
like,
really good money.
Yeah. And what was crazy, so I started to think, because he gave me this cold call list, but I called through it, and then I was done. So I was on a laptop in that little room, and an ad came up. It was like a Yahoo ad. It might have been, I don't think it was Google, but it was a picture of this dude on a Hawaiian beach, I remember. And the caption said, how I made $28,000 laying on the beach today. And I clicked it, and it was an ad for like a guru. And I remember it was probably in the first week, I hadn't actually received any commission. So I had like $300-400 in my bank account. It was $300 to buy his system. His name was Corey Rudel. Sadly, the guy died in 2008. He had all these Porsches and stuff, and he crashed.
Oh, man.
I always thought about when I made money and got all these cars, I'm like, don't drive too fast, man. Corey Rudel. I always wanted to thank the dude because I got a 3-ring binders before YouTube for $300 sent to me. And the only thing I remember from it is there's something new called Google Ads. Try it. So I built an ad advertising this Mike Steinbach's kind of, by then we were doing some financial stuff like annuities and mutual funds, and I put an ad up, and instantly leads started to pour in. I got good at that, and I ended up working at GE. This Mike guy got me working as a broker for GE, which at the time was the biggest company in the world, GE Capital. And so I started like a click on Google Ads at the beginning. Okay.
Was this 2004?
Yeah, earlier.
Yeah.
Even.
Wow.
Okay, a click on Google Ads was roughly 20 cents. Okay. And I would get a lead for like $15 and I could close 1 out of 10 and my average commission was $1,500.
Wow.
Right now, those clicks are $20 a piece. So that's why I always tell people, find the new platform, get in early. And so that really skyrocketed me. And that's when I started consistently making 6 figures. That's when that guy at Notebook also said, have multiple streams of income. So I would work in this finance company. I spun out my own with a business partner, but doing the same thing. And I would work from like 11 in the morning, maybe 7 at night. And then I would take off, and I had gotten this nightclub business, which was pretty big in North Carolina. It ended up being almost the biggest nightlife company. So then I would do 7 at night till like 3 in the morning, the nightclub. So I had these 2 streams, but it was fun. Like I was going out. It was like I owned some salsa dancing clubs. I owned all this stuff. I got in that business because I went to a nightclub and it was like $20 for a drink. And I was thinking, I'm on the wrong side of this counter here. I was like, I know alcohol costs $1 or 50 cents. And so my second stream of income is going to be nightlife. I get paid to have fun.
How did you get started doing that?
How long did it take between like, okay, I want to do this, and then actually doing it?
Man, I've always been quick. It didn't always work quick, but I started quick. The way I started in nightlife, and this is going back to what I learned at the Amish, build a community, build a tribe. It's funny. It's like social media that's basically what social media is. It's like you built your tribe. You got subscribed. It's like they lock it in. You have 1 million followers. So it's kind of like my tribe is 1 million. And it's funny how humans are chasing their tribe. It's like, I want my subscribers. Everything from YouTube, TikTok, but also like OnlyFans.
Yeah, guys, if you want to join the tribe, all you got to do is hit the subscribe button.
OnlyFans?
It's free.
Do you still have it?
Someone signed up for it randomly. I thought it was shut
Do
down.
you feel like you have to deliver now?
But I haven't posted on there.
If you have an OnlyFans, I'm signed. I will be your second subscriber.
I created
not
an
lewd
OnlyFans.
content.
Yeah, it's not. nothing
No, there's a
crazy.
lot of people. I
But
know a girl doing like
posted
60 grand a month. She doesn't do anything nude.
Yeah, he just does feet.
Adrian, I'm gonna give you my login.
No.
Check that.
I posted what I was buying for stocks,
Okay.
and I did that for a few weeks, and then I realized very quickly I was charging too much, and it wasn't worth my time.
What were you charging?
$100, like 99.
So the conversion rate is low on
bad.
TikTok.
And then I lowered the price, and I thought, well, it's not worth my time.
It's insane that OnlyFans. It just there's the power of community in a world of free porn.
Yeah.
Dudes all day long. This year, the owner of OnlyFans has been paying himself $1 million a day dividend.
No.
All the maten var så
Dividend
lite.
net.
Det är helt sjukt.
Oh my god.
So I was reading this in August. He'd paid himself $1 million a day. He's gonna probably do 365 this year.
It's a good business.
Who are the dudes? But that just shows you. It's like people want to feel like they belong. So it's like, I'm a lonely guy. Here's a pretty woman that I probably can't get in real life. I can be in her tribe. I'll pay $7 a month or
but
whatever.
I think a lot of that is the personal connection. We had Stella Barry on, and she was making $250,000, $300,000 a month consistently. And I think
she chats with them, right?
Yeah. But I think it's a lot of them just want that one-on-one attention.
Yes. But they don't realize they're chatting with. Usually, they're chatting with a gay assistant. I went on Tinder date like 2 years ago. I don't know how many years ago. 2, 3 years ago.
You were on Tinder? You're on Tinder?
Yeah, I always get kicked off Tinder because people like, I get reported as a fake one.
Why? But I feel like you wouldn't.
I did it once.
Like you wouldn't need Tinder.
So in the U.S., I've only done it. I did it for like a streak for like 2 weeks. I use it in like Scandinavia. Like, they're really shy.
Yeah.
And like Sweden Tinder is not like American Tinder. It's like the most beautiful. You're like, this. They are not charging enough money for this. But anyway, I went on this date in San Diego. I've only been on a few Tinder dates in the U.S., right? And so this girl comes, probably the curviest woman I've ever seen. Okay, curviest white girl on earth, natural. I was like, anyway, after talking, I was like, what do you do? And she's like, I'm on OnlyFans. I was like, I could believe you make a lot of money. She's like, I'm number 3 or something on there.
Wow.
And then it was funny, we were in the Hoya. She goes, so she just slides in that her Navy SEAL husband is deployed right now. That's why she can be on date. I'm like, oh, no.
What?
I was like, I'm getting out.
I would never buy into Firi.
She didn't say. A lot of times people won't say when they recognize.
So you're saying like on dates, you've gone on dates with a girl knew.
Yeah, sometimes. Or usually people won't say. I find a lot of people don't want to say like, I know who you are. Some people will. But yeah, this girl's like, I'm gonna get killed. I'm like, right now, she's like, don't worry, my Navy SEAL husband. I'm like, you gotta put that on your Tinder. I have a husband, and he's a Navy SEAL, and I'm hiding this. We don't have an open relationship. Yeah, she's like, oh, he wasn't even deployed. He was like in Camp Pendleton. It was like 45 minutes away. Anyway, but she was making. But she's the one who told me. I go, how do you talk to all these dudes? She's like, I have a gay assistant who just sits there. So all these guys are like, oh, I've connected with this curvy woman, and it's a good hustle, man.
Wow.
Do you still have Tinder?
The U.S. I don't use it. I'll use it. Yeah, it always gets deleted for like being fake. People report.
That's
like,
crazy. What do you do for dating now?
While we're on the social circle, I mean, Instagram. I feel like Instagram DMs is like the new Tinder.
Yeah.
It's just like talk. But when I've been in Puerto Rico, so I've been more chill. I have, but. When I was in LA, you know how LA is. LA is just like an insane place. I always tell guys, if you are an insecure man and not good talking with women, move to LA because the most extroverted women in the world move there. And just pretend like you recognize them. I heard this comedian Fahim Anwar. He's like, LA, you just go up to anybody and be like, I'm a big fan. You can go to any nightclub, be like, big fan of your work. Women will be like, oh, good. Because now with social media, what percentage of LA women that are pretty do you think are some kind of influencer?
Yeah, but big fan of your work. What if she has like 500 followers?
The point is, when humans are narcissists, they just are like, thank you.
Wouldn't she think that you're mistaking them for somebody else?
And everywhere else, you're thinking with common sense, my friend.
It's a good test though, because if she likes you, she'll just be like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. But what if they have an OnlyFans? What if you're like, hey, I like your work?
I like your work on OnlyFans. Exactly.
But
New York's hard. I think New York's a hard city for people. It's more like
but the thing is, if you go up and you start with I'm a fan of your work, doesn't that show too much interest right up front?
Oh, yeah. Now
all of a sudden that she's you're on this pedestal.
Yeah.
You're a fan and like
I know it's so funny now.
It's
like
weird dynamic. Right?
I don't totally subscribe to the stuff that's online now. Now there's like very much like the zeitgeist is like, here's how you play it. You're the alpha man. I think human psychology is very complex, so I don't know that always. I know very beautiful women that if you play kind of the alpha cocky thing, you're going to instantly fail. Like
They're
it's
not used to it is a thing.
yeah, like now
I used to fake this, I'm guessing.
but people are too oversimplifying. Like human attraction is complex. It's like basically I like to study game theory, right? So, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie with Russell Crowe, Beautiful Mind. It's about Nash, who won a Nobel Prize in game theory. So like game theory, for example, says if all men start to act a certain way, it no longer works anymore, then the opposite will start to work. So like if all men are taught to be like super cocky alpha, then the beta guy will start to do better. If all men are start to act
Hi
beta,
Lopez, shut the fuck up. Skal vi sjekke her. Skal vi se den skjøte fine. Prisen er 1 milliard, ja. 4. Whatever.
then the alpha will stand out.
Well, I
They
think
call it
that's just-
Hawks and
I think
Dove
that's
theory.
just like finding the
Jeg
outlier.
er short nå, da.
Yes. But it's also, I mean, there's masculine women and feminine women, and there's masculine men and feminine. Dude, I know guys that are super quiet with women, not alpha, that destroy any of the pickup artist guys you know. It's like, it's not that simple. I actually, you know, the first paid program I built, because people think of me like 67. The first one I built was, I forget what I called it Mr. X. It was based on this dude that I had met when I owned nightclubs. So when I took over these nightclubs, it was my first M&A deal. It's a hostile takeover. Colombian dudes own this nightlife thing in North Carolina. You were asking me. And I almost got killed doing this because I took it over. These guys were like big coke dealers and I didn't realize it. And I basically went to the owner and I was like, you shouldn't do it with these Colombian guys. I'll make you way more money. Plus these
You
dudes
didn't
are
think the Colombian guys had a lot of money.
I didn't know they were coke dealers. I was like from the Amish. I thought everybody was nice. I just was like, these guys are breaking all kinds of rules, and once in a while the fire department would show up and you get in big trouble, right? And I was like, the guy that owned it, I said, these dudes, they're gonna get your liquor license taken away. So finally he didn't care because these Colombian dudes brought all the hottest women. Because of cocaine, they were bringing all the hot cocaine women. So, but I found his conservative business partner, and I went to him, and I was like, "You need to know these guys are going to make you lose your list." And he threw them out, put me in. They tried to kill me once. It was like a month later.
All right, what happened there? I want to know that.
Basically, I remember Ricardo and Hernan. That was their name. Dude, I took away, like, they controlled like 6 clubs, and in the back they were like selling coke, and it was like all this. And I was at a place, and they like 10 dudes came in. I was like in a bathroom, and I was like, these motherfuckers are gonna kill me. Latin dudes carry knives a lot. My dad was stabbed, like my dad take his shirt off, and I was like, these dudes. And I told him, I was like, I forget what I said, but basically it was like fight or flight. I was like, you better kill me, because if you just half-ass it, like, I'm gonna fucking get you back. And they kind of a little bit got scared. And not scared, they were just kind of like bluffed, because they were like pinning me in the back of this place. And that is when I rolled out. That's when I got a whole bunch of security dudes. I remember.
Why didn't they hurt you?
Like I said, I was a weird. I don't know that they were fully committed to it, but it was like,
Was it intimidation tactic?
yeah, but it was more. These were like real deal dudes. I didn't know that before, but yeah, I got these 10 big security guys to run my club out of Brooklyn. I had a 7'2" guy. The next week, I sent all of them to those dudes' house in a van. They rolled up, and I said, just go knock on the door and be like, oh, this is where you live. Don't say shit. And one thing I've learned is Colombian dudes are, well, I shouldn't say Colombian. Everyone's afraid of big black guys. It's like they're like the alpha of physical specimens. And these dudes were all like 7'2". I had a guy that was 7'2" and 6'11", 2 brothers. And they just showed up on the house, and they were like, yo, we work for Ty. Like, this where you live? And they got back in the car and drove off. That was in. Never anything happened after that. Like I said, Yeah, it was very opposite the Amish.
So how much capital?
Opposite of the
take?
Amish.
It sounds like. How much capital did it take to start up this nightclub?
None, because I just moved in, so maybe 10 grand.
You're doing promotion, right? So
Yeah, but I took in I was a partner with them.
Okay.
That was when I did my first. Now I do a lot of M&A. And acquisition. You
Så
can
de har
acquire one of the biggest
de
things.
investerer
I'm working on a
i
book called The Way of the Billionaire.
de investerer i egne coins, og så får de folk til å kjøpe det, og så selger de det. Er det det de gjør, tror
You
du?
have an idea, you're in the shower, you grow it. But I mean, look at Elon Musk. It's like almost everything he's done in the last 20 years. Tesla was started by 2 guys.
Yeah, short Nasdaq.
Elon comes and what does he do?
Short
He
Nasdaq.
injects $6 million and takes the thing
Come
over
on,
in
come
2
on,
rounds
come on, come on,
and didn't
come on,
start
come on.
Twitter. And he likes to buy existing stuff. So I tell people now, I didn't know it back then, but it's a great strategy because you get all the momentum that's already there. And that's why franchises, for example, like the average person who starts a business, I think it's something like 80% of new businesses fail, but only 5% of franchises fail. So people who buy a Taco Bell or McDonald's or Chick-fil-A, because the concept is already fleshed out, So when I got in that nightclub business, I didn't know I had a very high chance of success because it was already like fleshed out,
Who is Mr. X?
Oh, so Mr. X, when I took over the nightclub, I fired everybody because they had all these crazy dudes working for them. But Giorgio, the main owner of the restaurant, he said, Ty, don't fire the doorman. I said, why? He's like, trust me. He goes, this guy is responsible for like 100 hot women a night will show up because he's there. So I was like, what? So I kept him. And first day I met him, and the guy was a strikingly good looking dude. When you met, like I'm straight, but you'd be like, oh shit, don't leave, what's the thing? Don't leave your girl around this guy. But he was a cool dude, man. And he's the one who first told me about Scandinavia. Basically, he'd come to America to make enough money, and then he'd go live in Sweden, Denmark, Iceland. But he's the best guy I've ever met with women. And he was partly because he was good looking, but he had, and I know a lot of the pickup artist guys, and I respect those guys and the guys who teach social stuff, and they're good, but none of them are. This guy was like also a natural. Most of the people who teach kind of started out nerdy, then hacked the system to be better. But it's also cool to see a dude who started out like an 8.5, but also hacked the system, and he was a 10. So one of the things I short, for example,
det shorta, jeg klarte ikke meg.
Like, I mean, this dude was shocking. And the thing is, he had the most beautiful women in love with him, like Victoria's Secret model. I think he's dead now. I've not heard from him in literally like 5 years. He lived a little bit crazy life as an alcoholic. But one of the things I said, his name was Drago, was his real name, Puerto Rican and Romanian. I was like, Drago, I've been out with you. Like, you get shocking amount of women coming up to you. And I was like, what's your close rate on like getting a girl's number? He's like, 50%. And I thought it was gonna be like, he got 90%. Yeah. And so now to myself, like when you're out and like even the best dude only gets 50. And I told him, how do you deal with rejection? He goes, I just tell myself, I'm looking for the women who have good taste. So if they say no to me, it's like, fuck them. They don't know what they're talking about. But he's a very confident guy. And, I remember last time I saw him, he's like, come to this club, Hollywood and Vine. And as I was driving there, I was almost there. He just like texted me. He's like, I met 2 sisters in the line. I'm going home. Forget it. I mean, it was crazy. Wow. This dude, if I could ever so I tried to make a whole course around him and put him on video. And he's like, you know what? I'm kind of shy. So I just called it Mr. X, and I like taught that was my first course. And it was, so going back to this, it was the algorithm of a woman's brain. And I think in terms of attraction, and I think there's 12 kind of algorithmic quick computations.
All crypto oppe.
And interesting, about 6 years ago, I was in Vegas and I gave this talk. There was a dating conference, and there was a dude in the back who came up to me, this old guy, and he's like, that was a pretty good talk, but you're missing one thing. I remember thinking, who is this guy? Turned out is Dr. David Buss. He's like the founder of the Harvard Evolutionary Psychology Department. He's become my mentor. He's like the smartest guy, probably the most respected psychologist alive right now on social dynamics. So he said my basic idea was right. I was missing he said status you're missing. Status is the most powerful thing. So you can be like, people don't realize like Justin Bieber is not tall. But Justin Bieber, I dated a girl who used to date him, and she's like, I'd go over his house, it's like 40 women on the couch with just him. All of them like in love, in love with him. But he was like, he's like 5'8".
Justin Bieber, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying that, but he's not the richest guy. He's not the tallest. He's not the most alpha, but he has this other thing, which is status, which means other people respect him on both genders too.
Yeah.
But there's other things anyway. So
can you list off maybe like 2 or 3 key components or key
Jack's
features?
just, like,
this is
notes.
for just anyone watching,
research purposes.
Yeah.
Well, I think women. I learned from Dr. Buss. I think I was wrong. I was missing. But so I think status is the most powerful. If you look, have you seen that recent meme where Jeff Bezos was with his girlfriend and DiCaprio was there?
Yes.
So
that was
Laura
wild.
Sanchez, his girlfriend, is like looking at she's with the richest man in the world. And
Uh,
here's DiCaprio.
De har
and
kanskje
she's just
på
like,
TV-testet, faktisk.
So I
Jeg
was
sjekker.
Leaves him. Like,
Yes.
straight up just, like, pulls away from him to go and talk to Leo. And the funny thing is, Leo seems completely disinterested.
Yeah.
Just could not care. And he's just like, kind of making amends to, make sure everything's good. But
That's
there's Bezos, and he's just
crazy.
looking.
Yeah, because a lot of
Bezos,
Hva
yeah.
har hun for?
He picked the
Bezos was-
wrong one.
yeah.
Man. Like,
Don't let
jeez,
your girl around
no.
DiCaprio. I went to a thing once at Rihanna had a party and I met DiCaprio. He's also not a big dude. He's a little guy. So I think that you asked me for the quick list. I think women look at intelligence. I think they look at ambition. I think they look at how far you've come. I think they look at facial symmetry is one. I think they look at height is definitely one. Age range is one. Women, almost all cultures, women like older men, not necessarily crazy older. I think that women, so basically what women do, it's like, okay, if you're ugly in the face, but like I used to have these bouncers that work for me. Some of these dudes are like 6'8", 300 pounds, okay? Some are ugly as hell, but they're always going to pull some women being 6'8", because that part of
Jævla
the
dårlig
computation of women
volum, da.
goes to like a 10, and their face being ugly is like a 1. It kind of the algorithms pulls it up. So basically, you're born with a set of genetic parameters that limit you. And this isn't just for human sexual attraction, but this is also in every area. I mean, humans are extremely status driven, and people don't realize that. If you put 150 chickens in a room, they all look the same to us, but the chickens know who's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way. They keep track of that pecking order. So there's a pecking order with people. I think that's why most dudes who are rich are ugly.
I dag var det en dårlig dag.
Name a good looking.
Disse satt Frankrike og
like a
Storbritannia og
Forbes
stengte, de
guy.
fikk ikke gjennom det.
You have like Zuckerberg. You have, there's
Well,
a few.
I don't know. Probably actors don't qualify for that.
That's
Rareste
Snapchat.
har jeg borte for
That's
lenge.
too bad.
Spiegel.
Yeah, Spiegel.
Yeah, but he's like at the bottom. I'm talking about
Jeg
top
gikk,
of
jeg gikk ut på samme kurs
But
hele
Elon
dagen.
Musk
He's a good looking guy.
Klarte å dra
Musk,
hjem
baby.
In the
7000.
60s and 70s.
Så skal
like,
jeg ut
to
igjen og
be
ut
in
igjen og
the
ut på
top,
samme kurs, og så tapte jeg
gotta
9.
That is a good point.
older
Yeah,
to
let's
have that
talk about like
compound
young,
wealth.
disproportionately rich.
So the richest would be
Well, sure.
Zuckerberg.
He's not
He's still,
bad
still,
looking.
No woman has a poster of Zuckerberg. No woman's phone is set to Zuckerberg.
Ja, men det var veldig rart, men han pleier å slite bordet.
Zero.
It's gotta
There's
have
3.5 billion
one
women.
person.
There's zero.
One
Yeah, his wife, maybe.
That's funny.
No, that
You need a list
parameter
of, like,
is.
the top. There's got to be somebody.
No, look.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, it's disproportionately. I notice if like with investors, I have a big investor group, like these high net worth people. It's like there's a lot physically wrong here.
Beloved
No,
investor.
but yeah. Hopefully they won't listen to this. I'm just going. There's not a lot of Mr. X guys there. There's none.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm telling you, if you have kids, you don't want your son to be like this Mr. X guy Drago that worked for me. He was a doorman, and he never had to be more than that to live a badass life. Like he just, you look at the great people that do great things. You need kind of that
But now here's
pain
the
and
thing.
suffering.
Two things. I think to get to that level of wealth, you have to be so focused that
Right.
you're working on the business and not socializing. So
Yes.
that aspect doesn't get nurtured and improved. But do you think maybe it could be because they're not physically as attractive that they try to make a lot of money to compensate,
I
or
think
do you
so.
think it's just
I think dudes compensate.
Yeah.
Men have, I think women do too.
Feeling inferior is sometimes, I would say most of the time, a better driver and motivator than ambition, than just wanting to do a lot with your life. Like feeling like you need to catch up to be where you want to
Name a beautiful scientist. Like people go in the lab, man. I remember my buddy got his PhD. I probably shouldn't say it's not politically correct, but I went to his graduation and he's like, I want you to look at the women graduating from me. He's like, Nate, I want you to rate 1 to 10 the beauty on this stage. Because everybody was on stage. He's like, show me 1-5. And so the hard truth is, yeah, humans have to cope, all of us. And I saw that, what's his name? Jamie Foxx said that recently. He's like, if it comes too easy, you ain't going to strive for it. You know what I mean? And that's why most sons or daughters of wealthy people, like, they lose it. Daddy made it. They lost it. They didn't have that drive. There's a few. I mean, Donald Trump's dad was successful, and he's kind of done well. But I was just like Tom Hanks. You know, it's like drug addiction too.
Like son Chet.
Yeah, the sons just become. They don't have. You need that burning fire in you. You need to dance. Your childhood probably have to dance with the devil a little bit. You know, you look at Elon Musk. He's like a guy who was, I think it was, he strikes me as somebody who was like almost suicidal, deep depression as a child, you know?
He did say he had an existential crisis at like
13. 12, yeah.
Yeah.
He read a book, he said. Books? People have criticized me because, oh, Ty, you don't need to read books. I'm like, dude, Elon Musk's sister just wrote a thing recently. Said, I remember Elon growing up, he read 2 books a day. You know, book changed his life. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He said that's what got him out of that thing. So, yeah, I mean, think about it. And I think of humans, I think of myself as a Homo sapien, a mammal. I don't necessarily think of myself. I think we're too narcissistic. So we think we're this other class of organism on Earth. And, you know, the natural state of a dog, if you leave a dog enough food, enough warm place, it doesn't become a wolf, man. A wolf is out there hungry. And you see a wolf and it's like lean and it moves fast. So that's going back to these ratios. You need some trauma in your life. If you have too much trauma, the ratio gets out of whack and you become kind of insane. So humans, they say at one point in human history, there was 100 humans in the last ice age. Say maybe only 100 humans. We're all the descendants of like 100, 200 survivors, which makes you wonder. It's like, okay, how'd you go from 200 to a lot? A lot of people were dating their sister back then. No Tinder. You had to.
I can explain a lot of people today, man.
Yeah.
West Virginia, man.
So I think let's continue on the storyline a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because most people know you obviously from the commercials and ads and
Right.
stuff like that. It's where you got billions of views or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's keep. So after this nightclub thing, how much
Yeah.
money do you think you were making from that nightclub at that time?
I was big. I mean, those two businesses, I wasn't even making $1 million, but I was living, I didn't have much expenses. So I was living a good life. I don't know, maybe $500,000 a year. Or something.
$500,000 at what age?
And that was still my 20s, you know, or mid 20s.
Mid 20s.
So that was good, but it's all about, like, I look back and that's actually a sweet spot for people to be in, because I didn't need anything fancy. I didn't even really realize like LA, Beverly Hills. I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina. So for me, all that extra money was like freedom. I remember I was dating this girl, Shara, and she goes, I want to go to Puerto Rico. They have the world salsa dancing competition. And I had grown up kind of poverty mentality. So I immediately was like, no, I can't go. It took me, I had to reprogram myself that, wait a sec, I actually have money in the bank. So I said no. And then like 10 minutes later, I was like, why can't I go? Googled it was like $500 to go. And I go, oh, I can get a ticket for you. And she goes, oh, no, I can't go. My friend Amanda is visiting me. And I said, I can buy her a ticket too. So it was like a time of great freedom. I actually liked that time. Around that time, there was a time when I got like my first nice car. It was like Ferrari, Maserati. And I remember I just moved to LA and I kind of got burnt out. And I was like, I'm just going to get in a car and drive. And I drove for a year. I went LA, I went to Dallas. I met this girl there like randomly and we moved in together for like a month or two. And then I forget, I don't know if she got sick of me or I got sick of her. Like I moved out, I went to Miami.
Wow. Were you still running the nightclub in the car?
No, so I had set it up. So I set up that one of my friends took it over. I gave him 20% of the business and I didn't even have to show up. Now, when you do that, it slowly goes downhill. I just want you to know. Yeah. But it still spun off enough money. It went to like half. But sometimes I think it's like, would you rather make 100% of the money and have to be there all the time, or 50% of the money? There's the two big billionaires in American history. J.D. Rockefeller, he was worth estimated 600 billion in today's dollars. And then Andrew Carnegie, who was worth about 300 or 400 billion. But Carnegie early, he kind of did the 4-hour work week thing of, Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
I just reread, he wrote a book called The Gospel of Wealth. And he sold his company in 1901 for $350 million. You know how much money that was? I mean, that day he was the richest man in the world. And he said he looked down on people that had to work all day. He said, if you're a good entrepreneur, you pack it in efficiently in the morning. He's like, I double check everybody's. So Carnegie is the most underrated probably person to study. So back then with my nightclubs, when I was traveling, I inadvertently kind of did the Carnegie thing. I didn't do it as well as Carnegie because you should check up every day. Because you see a lot of entrepreneurs are like, a lot of advice. I think most of the advice, half the advice I see online now from people teaching business is very dangerous advice because it's like 90% true, but the 10% that's not will kill you. And one of those things is like, you set up a business, you systematize it, you get other people running it for you, and then you can basically, but it's not true. I've tried that. It's a very deadly thing. What you can do, systematize the business, put someone else to run it, and double check it every day for a short period of time, like 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So Sam Walton called that, the Walmart founder, he called that over-the-shoulder management. So when I was traveling, I took the nightclubs and I would only check on them like once a month. I was like, man, if I only knew that advice, I would have called the dude once a day. That's what Carnegie would do. Like 9 a.m., he'd call his main manager and be like, report to me. What's up? Show me the financials from yesterday, da-da-da-da. And so as I travel around the U.S. for a year, after about a year, that business kind of dissipated down, But it was fun. It was free. I was
free. Where were you sleeping?
I just go to hotels. I had enough money, man. I would go to Montreal. I stayed there for a month. That was my favorite life.
Were you spending most of what you made, or you were investing at all?
I was investing. I would say it was a combination, but I wasn't making crazy money. I mean, if you make $500,000 after taxes, it's not insane money, Taxes, people don't realize, eat you up. Right. And then in general, the more money you make, the more you're going to spend. So it was I wasn't burning through all of it, but I wasn't building I wasn't like
At what point though did you decide to change that lifestyle and dive into something else?
About the time you met me, a little bit after that, probably 2009. I don't even know why either. I think
it was probably meeting Graham.
It probably
set that
into motion. I was like, I never want to live in this place that he brought me to. It's like, I have to make money, man. Yeah, well, I mean, I think now, like this year, my holding company, I have a holding company, so I own a lot of brands, is going to do probably 850 million of revenue. And back then, I was like, trying to do 1 million. But, in many ways, I guess I pushed the limits of my ambition to try to see where. I think that there's the most noble way to think about it, live life, is to keep all the things in balance. But 2009, things were very much in balance.
How did you get on the show with Patty? What was her name? Patty Schlesinger?
Patty Stanger.
Yeah,
for Millionaire Match.
Yeah, how do you get on
Dude, my friend Sam Rima was this Playboy casting guy that I had met at the Playboy Mansion. But he was also casting for non-Playboy stuff. He wasn't trying to cast me in Playboy. I don't have your looks, Graham. So, but anyway, he goes, yo, there's this show. Why don't you come down? So I just showed up, and you had to show you were a millionaire. And that was like right when I had could show that I was a millionaire. Yeah, so I was like, aha! And cool. And I got on that show. That was great. That was in the MySpace days.
Yeah.
Can you explain what exactly that show is?
It was just like a dating show. It's like all the guys are supposed to be millionaires. You go out with women. It was kind of half scripted, half. It's like The Bachelor meets Billionaire.
That was my guilty pleasure.
You like that show?
I think it was on Bravo,
yeah, Bravo.
Right? I loved it. So they get the two millionaires together, and the millionaires are always very eccentric.
Yeah.
Like one guy was like, who was getting fed grapes? I forget. Maybe that was his.
That wasn't me.
That wasn't you.
That wasn't me. I wasn't a
Someone was
grape.
on the couch and wanted to be fed grapes. It's just some wild stuff. But they interview the two millionaires, find out who they like, and then have a mixer where there's maybe like 15 to 20 women down there, and they just kind of talk.
So 2 millionaires and 20 women.
20
Yeah,
women.
it's kind of like The Bachelor on crack, on financial
within
steroids.
60 minutes.
60 minutes.
Yeah, they had 60 minutes. But they met people that they wanted to go on a date with, and then
You pick
of
one.
those. Yeah, you maybe pick 5 that you want to talk to for 20 minutes one-on-one, and then you pick one to go on a date with.
I went on a
and then
boat,
it
which was
follows,
my
yeah.
mistake. I hate boats. I get seasick, so I was in a bad mood on that damn boat. And then I didn't get along with the main lady. It was her show.
Wait, with like the host of the
Yeah,
show?
so it was like
How
I
did you not
learned
get
don't
along
do
with
that. She was we were both two strong-willed people. She wanted me to wear a different shirt. Oh, me and my friend played a joke.
Yeah.
It took too long to do our wardrobe, so we just went out and met the girls with no shirt on, just as a joke. Which I was like, it's California if we're a fuck. And she was like, really thought that was bad. I was like, don't be so
None
old-fashioned.
of that was scripted. That was your.
No, that wasn't what happened. They had us on this, like, you know, where you get like powdered up and sitting. And so we had something about our shirt. I guess the makeup, they were trying to put makeup, and I was finally like, I'm here. It was hot. So I just took my shirt off and went out to meet the women, and they just kept the cameras rolling. My episode was like #1 most watched for like 5 years.
Because the shirtless gag?
Yeah, that and because I didn't get along with Patty.
So
I went to see her like
that's
2 years
funny.
later. She was doing a book signing, and I went there to say hi. She wouldn't talk
Are
to
you
me.
serious?
Because I'm like, it's not like I punched you in the. Yeah, she was very sensitive. She would, but she became super
Wouldn't she be
successful.
happy
Yeah.
because of, you know?
Oh, it was
performance?
good ratings.
Yeah.
You want somebody like me. It was like before the Kardashians. You need
Did you
like
do it knowing it would be a viral
No,
bit? Or you
I
just,
didn't
like,
know that the camera followed
This
me.
was before a lot of virality.
Yeah.
I mean, this was like.
I've
before
always
it
been
was
able to
like
go
that.
viral. Sometimes to my own,
Gosh.
to my own harm. But yeah, that went. I remember waking up and like, it was funny. So this is going back to like women. Certain women were like mad. They're like, "You're not a gentleman. You took your shirt off to meet." So I had on MySpace. This is on MySpace. I get all this backlash from. But then there was these other women all the women who kind of like eccentric dudes. And I remember, man, one of the most beautiful women in LA just like started hanging out with me. And I was like, that's why I tell you, don't ever go by the hard and fast rules. There's a woman who likes every type of dude. Goofy dude, eccentric dude, weird. Certainly some dudes get more volume. Get more of a percentage of the cohort of humans. But yeah.
So for you, where's the point of diminishing returns for money?
People always ask me, it's like, Ty, what's your net worth? I'm like, I want my net worth online to be relatively low. I think you want your net worth to be, as a dude, I can't speak for life as a woman, but I can speak for life as a man. Like, you want 5 million to be your net worth online. Because if you lose anything, if you lose a male or woman who Googles you at 5 million, you didn't want them as friends. You didn't want them in your life. And 5 million shows that you're like enough, that you are good enough. But
why 5 versus 10? At 5, I heard
10 means you maybe could be too focused on money. 5 means you're just a diligent investor and you're just.
Well, I'm saying even if you're worth 50, you want your damn. You want to be 5. I remember when I first moved into this place in Beverly Hills that everybody kind of saw that video. The first month I had a maid come, her first day on the job, she didn't show up the second day. A week later, I get this letter. She was suing our health insurance. She said she slipped on a banana peel. I remember thinking, she didn't even have it. She just made something up to try to make money.
Speaking of which, Jeff Bezos' housekeeper is suing him for improper work conditions.
Yeah.
She said that there was not a proper rest area or restroom for her to use in his house.
Dude, if
Graham forced me into a closet one time. But we're gonna get after that later.
Closet.
But they say that she was fired for poor work performance and that she was making over $100,000 a year.
Oh my!
How much was she? Is she
Doesn't say. Undisclosed amount. I think the goal is usually to say a huge amount and then settle.
Oh, of course.
And so even if she settles $500,000, for him it's a penny. She goes away. She makes $500,000.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Jeff
saying.
Bezos.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
basically, you're saying if
Ja,
you
god
show that you're
man,
high
men
net
det er
worth,
sånn,
it
så
opens
kjøper
up to
ikke vi
predators that could
forbruksvarer.
potentially
in
come.
America,
Yeah.
it's like America's so it's the kind of the end of America.
Huh?
If people don't realize is like the legal system's out of whack. You can't have
Men vi
that's
har
what
ikke kjøpt en bil
destroys the
som skal selges.
civilization is too many people preying on stupid things, you know. So yeah, that's like so going back to diminishing returns. I mean, man, hey, you're a dude. And now I have a lot of followers. I actually pulled my followers on Twitter like a month ago. I said, "What is your minimum goal? You'll be happy." And I was surprised. Like I put 100,000 a year, 300,000, 500, a million one in like a landslide. So I don't know if it's inflation that everybody thinks you need $1 million, or I think now with TikTok and everything, it's like social media is reprogramming people's brains.
Is $1 million just like
An
annual?
annual.
Yeah, they were thinking what I think as net.
But how
like,
many people just say $1 million? You're like, hey, that's cool, and they just click $1 million without thinking about it.
Maybe, but I actually
Oh,
think
no,
it's
that's
reflecting
fine, yeah,
like
but
what
we-
social media is doing. I mean, you go on social media and it's
Du har kjøpt en bil, for faen.
people were bothered that I put Lamborghinis.
Men han
It's
skulle
like,
prøve å heve
Lamborghinis
kjøpet
and
for det ikke var
like,
lavere, ikke sant?
I
Det
got
var
a
det
kick
han
out
sa.
of this TikTok I saw.
Ja,
It's like
da
some
kan du
kid,
heller
he's
kjøpe da,
21.
da.
He's
Da
like,
klarer du
this is my
gratis
struggle. This is my journey. He's like, 1 year ago, I was working at McDonald's. 4 months later, I learned how to whatever day trade Forex or
Men
something.
du kan
And
ikke
now,
alltid selge
I think I know
en
who you're
bil.
now 12 months later, I'm driving my
Han kan aldri gå
Lambo,
og kjøpe
traveling the
en
world in
bil.
Dubai, and I was going, and he's like, "Don't give up." I'm going, is that a struggle? It's like, bro, I struggled for like 4 weeks.
I react to
of
that guy on the
fame.
second channel. It's the guy that you're thinking about.
It's
all
so
the time.
funny.
But I'm saying that's like the Chinese. There's this
some
theory, you
talk
know, that
about
the
it.
Chinese are using TikTok to reprogram civilization. It might be true. That algorithm is like tweaking people's brains. I saw Jordan
Hvordan vil du
Peterson,
bruke bladet?
the psychologist. You know, he said now a boy, a teenager, is exposed to more beautiful women than he would ever see
Jo,
in
men
his
altså,
entire life.
jo, men da får du den som er
So
størst.
it's like
den
now
største
people's
range.
standards are like everybody's, and women are all depressed because your feed is just full
Du
of like.
sparer
So
jo penger
it's
på
a
sett, liksom.
it's a weird one. That's so you have to
Gjør det
really
da, så kan du
control
si at du
your
skal ha
brain
bilder,
now in the
liksom.
modern world, and you have to say, let me stay logical. Let me not be reprogrammed by somebody else's happy life algorithm.
Nei,
Let me know what I want, you know. But I do think some of the algorithm's good. Like
Well, here's the
people are
thing:
more
people,
fit now.
but nobody has critical thinking skills.
Right.
Very few people have the ability to see something and think,
Right,
"What
but
do
they're
I think?" and get their
not
own opinion
Right.
based on everything else. So many people just see that and they're like, "That must be a fact,"
Jeg ga
because it
100 til
has
han,
20 million views
beste
on
av
TikTok. X amount of people liked it, and then you get served
That's what
everything
you
else
know.
that just
Yes.
reinforces that. I think it's a huge problem.
Yeah, oh, I did.
TikTok is, I think, the
Ja,
worst
men
for
det er masse bilder
misinformation.
og
Worse
sånt,
than
så han
YouTube,
driver-
Twitter,
han
Facebook.
understryker.
Why do you think
Han
so?
er like,
Because their algorithm is so potent that I think it'll
Nei,
zone
det gjør
into
det
whatever
per
you're going
dag.
to watch. And I
Right.
think misdiagnosing
Ja,
medical
det er
conditions is one of the biggest problem on
Det er så har
TikTok.
det på
And now
høyre,
people are getting self-diagnosed with
Det er
tics,
så han er på høyre.
and with certain Tourette syndromes, ADHD. There's so many things that'll just keep showing.
Well, it's
you
also
the same
super
thing.
biased. So, for example, if you
Yeah.
lean into one thing,
Right.
it'll just
Yeah.
basically like
Yeah.
reaffirm that
It's
whatever
an
you're
echo
leaning
chamber.
into.
It's
Yeah, exactly. You could be on
terrible.
conservative TikTok,
Yeah.
liberal TikTok,
Yeah.
and it just keeps feeding that to you, and you just become more extreme in whatever behavior.
Yeah.
Speaking of TikTok, Ty, I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts on Andrew Tate
Jeg
are.
kjører bil.
I get
People have compared Andrew Tate's marketing, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how he's appeared basically everywhere on everyone's screen, similar to your marketing
Yep.
back in like, you know, the early 2010s.
Yeah, I get that's like a really common question. It's
Yeah.
funny. Before he was famous, he was like
Vi
DMing me
forsøker.
before in like a couple years ago, and so
Det er den
we and
der
him
bak som
talk.
platen ligger på bak.
Recently, we were gonna meet
Ja,
up
det er først
in
å ta
London,
den
and then
til
I like
en
went to
kompis med
DM, and he's gone off Instagram. Remember, he got banned,
Så
and
jeg
I
prøvde
didn't have,
den til
I had to
deg.
go on his website and do his little
Right,
instant
right.
messenger, and I was like, "Yo, we were gonna meet up. Can I talk to Andrew?" And so the dude, his like an assistant, is like, "I don't believe you're Ty Lopez." I was like, "I'm really Ty Lopez." They're like, "You're gonna have to prove it." I was like, "Okay, go on Telegram." I had to like shoot a video, like, "Yo, this is actually me." All the people that go viral. The Gary V's, the Grant Cardones, the Joe Rogans, you know, the Tates, they're sharp. And most it's hard to go viral for a long period of time unless you have some unique angle. So I put them in, you know, a high IQ person that and takes a belief to the nth degree. That's what really, like, the algorithm rewards extremes.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It rewards extremes, which is for good or bad. You know, the Kardashians, Kanye is probably the most Googled
Yes.
person.
Jeg tror bare du har vært
Donald
litt
Trump.
stressa.
Elon can be pretty extreme. He says all this stuff on Twitter that like gets him in trouble with the SEC. So I mean, there's a good and bad to that, and I've been there too. Like I've showed an extreme side. It was actually in my life, but I showed it, and it was like super extreme to the average person. You know, it's like living this life in Hollywood and people. And so when I talk about reading a book a day, that was at the beginning before I really went viral, but that was kind of extreme. But it went viral. So I think whether it's Tate or Trump or Kanye or AOC, like on the left side, or Ben Shapiro and stuff, the algorithm's going to reward extreme views for good or bad. And so to some extent, that's great for society. Because like a Tate, he brings out these concepts that everybody was afraid to say, which is like maybe radical feminism or something, or kind of, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because I try to not use social media that much, except I'm like a drug dealer. I'll deal it, but I don't want to use it for myself. So I try to limit my scrolling through the algorithm. But unless it's funny videos, that's the best use of social media. Like funny videos is the best. Pranks and all that. But you know, I remember the first time I really saw Andrew Tate was talking about how men are lonely, and that was that one video clip. He's like, a woman will never understand. And I think social media from like 2018 to 21 had flipped so strong to like the woman's side of view. And men kind of felt like, well, you know, I don't get represented. So Tate came in saying what people were thinking. That's how Trump, whether you like him or not, I'm not that political. He says a lot of stuff that people think. I remember I was watching something he said where he goes, why do we have to pay NATO? It's like, why do we have to pay to protect Germany? They should have to fucking pay their proportionate amount. First president to say that. It's true. It's logical. Like, but that's one of those touchy things. Like, do you want to say that? So Tate is good at saying what a couple 100 million people are thinking. Peterson and Jordan Peterson does that too.
He's saying, who knows Jordan Peterson?
Oh, we'd love to have him on the podcast.
We would love to have him on the podcast. This is an open invitation to have him on.
Yeah, he's part of the Ben Shapiro. I know Ben Shapiro, and he's kind of linked up with the Daily Wire, and Ben's killing it. They got that.
Nei, da har du din bit
som
du har hatt.
Paying $10 a month.
Yeah, and I don't know how Ben Shapiro posts so much. I see his feed, and he's posting like 4 times a day.
I need to start. My brand's been like the last 3 years I've been too busy. I'm actually working on a show which is like money talk kind of show a little bit, where I'm gonna do. I like talking about what I call the good life, because I think
the Socrates good life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good that you know that. You know, he called it. He had a different word for it, like a Greek word. But that's what I was talking about, the ratios of the good life. So my show, I try to talk, even though I'm known so much more for the money side, because that was the most extreme side. But it's not my real belief. Like, I do think Steve Jobs said, you know, I didn't want to be the richest man in the graveyard, but he was, because he sucked at understanding health. He had like wacky theories of eating bananas, and he took it, and then you die of pancreatic cancer. They say it's not related, but I'm like, well, couldn't have helped. And so I think, to me, I think I try to but that's what people want.
Let's talk about money. How did you start off with that here in my garage?
Where were you in your
garage? I want to hear the story on this.
So I was living in the Hollywood Hills. I enjoyed my life. It was an amazing life. I was at a mastermind. Somebody's like, you do good on YouTube, and you should do YouTube ads to boost your stuff. I was at a mastermind. So I tell people to go to like masterminds and conferences. I don't even remember who was sitting next to me. I thought on it, and I had just got this Lamborghini. I was dating this girl, and I was like, she wanted to be Batman. I'll be Batman. I'm gonna get a black Lamborghini. I wanted one anyway. And so that was in October 2014, and then I go, let me listen to this dude and start boosting some ads. So I shot a video with my friend Jeremy, and I tried to do it as an ad, and it made like no money. I lost 20 grand. I spent 20 grand in December 2014, and I made like 1 grand back. And but I knew enough about marketing that it's all about A/B testing, iteration. So I didn't give up. I went for New Year's. I went to Paris for New Year's, and when I was there, my assistant, you know, Nathan, I loved books. I had all these, I would order a crazy amount of books. Was doing that back on the Amish days. I would like all my money I'd spend on books. It'd be delivered, you know, it was like Amazon was first starting. They deliver to the Amish, Amazon shipments, not on horseback.
How would you order the Amazon then?
I would they didn't have a phone, but you could go use like a pay phone.
Oh my gosh.
So I'd like call somebody who would order them for me. I'd be like, wow. I forget the whole, I had like I also would get these vintage books. But anyway, so I went and I took that, I shot a nut. Oh, he called me. I'm in Paris. Ty, what do I do with all these books? So I had like crazy amount of books. And I'd filled up the entire house. I had a pretty big house. I said, yo, buy bookshelves and stick them in the garage. I'll be back and I'll figure it out. So I came back first couple of weeks of January. And there's all these books there. And I remember it was a Sunday. It was like January 18th or 19th. And my friend called me. I had this really smart friend who's now my business partner, Dr. Alex Mayer. And he had said some advice to me. He would come down from San Fran. He was building his tech company. He sold it a couple years ago for $300 million. But back in 2014, he was building it. And he came down to visit me. And I was like, let's go out to a club. And he's like, you know, partying's overrated, Ty. And he kind of like chastised me. And I was like, damn, okay. So he was gone at that point. He had gone back to San Francisco. But that Sunday, I was supposed to go out to a club with a friend. And they texted me like, where are you? And I texted back, partying is overrated. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to make some content. So I was all alone that day because I was supposed to meet everybody. And I just grabbed a camera and I knew about copywriting. I started copywriting like many years. I was doing that even kind of in the nightclub days. And so I just wrote out some like opening things. And I knew, you know, there's 25 scientific cognitive biases. Scientists identify these ways that the human brain makes a decision. They call it heuristics. Like our brain is like a branching set of, like a branch. If you say this, yes, then it branches 2 more times. So one of the branches, that's where they get this concept of a hook or like a pattern interrupt. So I go, what's a good pattern interrupt? And speaking of Sunset Plaza, do you know sushi? Of course. So I've had a lot of interesting breakthroughs. I met a dude in 2007 who basically told me to buy Bitcoin before it existed. He's like this new digital thing. His name's Brock Pierce. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a billionaire now. I had a dinner with him at Sushiya. But I also would observe. It's this place. It's kind of like the dude who owns Sushiya has the most beautiful women working as waitresses. It's a good business model, okay?
And they're always out front because they're on the sidewalk. So and they'll say hi to everybody. Every time you walk by, hi, how are you?
Every dude goes there because they think these women like them. I'm like, okay. But I had noticed one pattern. When the most beautiful actress woman in Hollywood would walk by, I've been a student of psychology. All men's eyes will follow. But if a badass car was going by at the same time as a girl, the dudes would override looking at the woman and look at the car. So that Sunday night, I'm sitting in my kitchen, and I'm like, what's a good hook? I'm like, you know what's powerful than even sex, beauty? A damn Lambo. So I'm like, let me say, and I also knew like authority, right? So what's an authority city to say where you are? If I'm like, yo, I'm here in, Omaha, Nebraska. Yeah. It's not like good copyright, but I was in Hollywood Hills and everybody kind of knows Hollywood. So I was like, I didn't script the whole thing out, but I just kind of like wrote a rough essay. Lamborghini is good. But then I was like, okay, don't sound too materialistic. Use these hooks to bring people around to something worthwhile for civilization, which is like, books have changed the world, man, it's like, you can track human civilization really changing from the invention of the Gutenberg press in 2015, the 1500s. So here in my garage, just got this new Lamborghini, and I was like, this hook's gonna cook people right here.
Oh my gosh.
I said, but you know what I like more? And I practiced that pan. I probably shot that 15 times. Because the pan, I went the wrong way. A few times. Let me pan around. It was before, like, your iPhone, you couldn't tap to flip as good. So I was kind of like, should I flip?
Wow.
I turned my phone on, so I was like, let me just give it. Yeah. And I was like, but what I like more is books, knowledge.
Yeah.
And boy, that phrase, it's actually like a good thing. I'm like, I'm gonna be remembered for some kind of mean thing, at least it's like the word knowledge. Like actually a useful word for someone. Like focus humans on knowing shit. That's what makes humans different than other species. If you really think about it, it's like dogs can run faster, gorillas are stronger, but humans have the ability to collect, collate, and act upon knowledge very quickly. Not just instinct. Like your dog, the only knowledge, and I like your dog, but it's not the smartest tool in the shed, right? The average dog has an IQ of like 20 to 30. They can't, they're
smarter than I thought. Yeah.
Well, like border collie, you have a smarter kind of dog. Like border collies are pretty smart.
Okay.
I've seen, my friend has a dog. Alex has a dog. That dog may not even have an IQ. It's the dumbest dog in the world. And his wife has a dog that still doesn't know his own name. Oh, no. I mean, I'm like, it got that. You know what's that little dog it has? Lexi. I mean, it is the dumbest dog. So yes, you're right. Okay. So the smarter dogs are 30. Sure. But anyway, so I did that knowledge thing. But then what people don't realize is, I hate watching myself on video. Okay. I did not watch Here in My Garage after I shot it until like 2 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like it. It's like, do you really like watching yourself on camera? It's like, fuck that.
Did you not have to edit it? Or did you just send the footage?
No, I set it off.
Oh, really?
I set it off. My friend did it.
You probably saw little clips of it because
I've seen clips.
You get an
ad. Oh, for sure. I saw, but I went like 2 months ago and I watched the whole thing and I was like, the reason that worked because it was good copywriting.
It was.
And then what I did script was the landing page video. So there was an hour lander selling the 67 steps. And that I pretty much wrote out and almost on a script.
Now, wasn't that $67 a month?
Yes. It was $1 a month. Yeah. You get one video. Of course, I traveled around the world, dude. People come up to me and are like, that thing changed my life. It's actually a pretty powerful... That 67 steps is a pretty powerful thing. I just had somebody take it and turn it into a book, and I asked them to like transcribe it, and they're like, "Holy fuck!" They're like, "You should get this out." I had to revise it because it would be 2,000 pages. It's like because it's 67 hours.
So now I'm curious, when you first ran that, was it an immediate success?
It crushed. So I turned it on. I shot it on a Sunday, and let's say I turned the act, edited it Monday, Tuesday. My editors got up Wednesday. I had a conference. Remember we used to do the Roosevelt? You ever had any of those? So the Roosevelt, hotel. I had a conference there. I was still doing some like self-help stuff. Okay. I go there and I'm talking in the morning, and in the back is my friend, and he's laughing the whole time. And I walk back there and I'm like, "What's so funny?" He's like, "Bro, look at this." And it's like we spend like 50 grand on ads and make like 130,000 back in the same day. Wow. It was like he's like it was before targeting. Yeah. That's why I say wealth is created by a combination of many things, but one of them is catching new trends early. And you were talking about how humans aren't free thinkers. What happens is, what it really comes down to, it wasn't until recently that scientists actually came up with this term of risk averse. Humans are risk averse. That's in our DNA. It's like humans 1,000 years ago, if they took too much risk, they fell off a cliff, or they didn't have glasses, they didn't have antibiotics, you didn't have all the things we have now. So taking risks was very dangerous. So new trends, like Elon Musk caught EV cars when they were kind of doubted that they'd be a real thing. Or Jeff Bezos built a website in 1994. So all these wealthy people, for the most part, are catching trends early. And I'm not on the level of Elon Musk or whatever, but just catching that little YouTube ad, there was no competition. I was the only person who was like a personal brand. There was one guy, Six-Pack Shortcuts. I don't know if you remember that. Mike Chang. He was teaching you like, he was an Asian guy, and he was like,
he's always in his kitchen.
Yeah, and he was like, buy my course. But there was nobody doing it besides like Six-Pack Shortcuts. So it just like printed money. It was like, and I've seen that over and over. Actually, in 2009, I had built I got in the Facebook beta program. I'd seen the same thing, but it wasn't on the level of YouTube.
Yeah.
Like Facebook ads, I would spend, this is in maybe 2000, I think it was 2009. I'd spend like $2,000 and make 20 grand back. Used to make 10 ROAS right away. But Facebook didn't have, like, YouTube has that visceral video experience. And Facebook back then wasn't really video. So it was just like image ads. So I had seen catching, and like I said, when I started in Google AdWords, being one of the first person, I could make $1,500 off a $150 spend, 10x. Facebook had that, but YouTube was just like super extreme.
How much were you making from that? Like, how much did that 67 steps make?
Oh, it made like, probably now, maybe it's made almost 100 mil, but let's say conservatively 75. I checked years ago, it was like 7. I remember,
but that's in revenue, right?
Yeah.
But it was high margin.
Right. I mean, it's just the cost of ads, which
But after a while, it was people were just buying it on their own. They would tell their friend about
10
it.
million bucks in ads, maybe 15.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably talking. Let's just, I don't know. But I put a lot of that money back into growing my brand. Like I because or else you pay too much taxes. Like I was living in California.
Yeah,
Man.
I mean,
you want to make 20, 30.
You were living in that house. How much? Was it, like $50,000 a month, right? 60.
You mean in Beverly Hills?
Yeah.
No, that was $93,000 a month. I lived.
How is it?
Yeah, expensive because
that much.
It was 17,000 and 19 bathrooms and 17 bedrooms. It was a big house.
Wow.
Wait, that's where you made the video, though?
No, that was in the place before. That was in 2014. Then I moved in about 2016.
Right, because I doubt you would have been able to afford 93 before that.
Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't even have thought of it. That came later. The reason I got such a big house, that 93,000, is I had an office in Sunset Plaza. Right next to Sunset Plaza, there's this place, and I had 2 floors there, and it was 60,000 a month, right? And then I did the math. I was like, I can fit all these people in this one. I saw this one house.
Is that the one in the corner of La Cienega? Or no?
No, that was in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And I just did the math, and I was like, I can just put my 50 staff people in this house and have a house for not much more than I'm paying for an office. So it made economic sense. It wasn't just me living alone I wouldn't do that. That's too much. It's like too excessive. But it was a great office, especially for shooting content, because I had all my video people there. It had a separate gym, basketball court, swimming pool. I did the first big influencer party. I had 1,200 people. Dude, you know how many big people came out of that party? I was like, Jake Paul and Logan Paul were just, they were in my courses. I was just on the Logan Paul thing. He's like, dude, we got in your courses. Yeah, when they start out. And like, I was doing this. I did a party early 2016. Come, you have to Anyway, 1,200 people showed up in my backyard. It was insane. I said, let's take a picture. This will reach the most people of any picture in human history. And it was like 1 billion people. I counted up afar. There was all these people, like Madison Beer was these people were like just that big then. It's like Jake Paul, Logan Paul, all this.
A lot of people from Vine, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was all that Vine kind of early YouTubers. So that house was very strategic. I've thought of going back to that house. I got a lot of flack. People are like, bro, you rented this. I'm like,
oh, yeah, dude, it's a rental.
Yeah, but I'm like, people thought it was a rental for like 1 day. I'm like, I was there for 4 years. So I'm like,
I mean, the one thing with the rental, you're able to write it off.
Hell yeah.
And also, when you think of the cost it would be to buy that house, and you would pay more money to buy it than rent it. Beverly Hills is terrible. The ROI in the Beverly Hills flats is like if you bought a house and rented it out, you would be lucky to get maybe a 2% return on your money.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah. That's why I tell people, time the market. So you just do the math, whether you should lease or own. Right now, with Fed raising interest rates, now's the time to come back in and buy. But Beverly Hills is not a place that will be affected by the Fed. It's an unleveraged place. Everybody's rich.
Yeah.
So that house, if you do the math, way smarter to rent it. Yeah. Way smarter. It's like $40 million house, and you can rent it for $1 million.
Yeah. And I remember the ads you filmed in those houses.
I so much content there.
Those ads would keep me watching because I'd always be curious of like what like you were gonna get to.
My favorite ad was when he goes into the car and he's like showing you a pink slip or something.
Yeah, that was like H3
yeah.
H3 came. You know who H3 is?
Course, yeah.
So like the first time
det er jo ikke en Tesla X engang, det du ser på. Jo, det er det. Hvorfor er du så høyt oppe, den greia? Jeg vet ikke. Jeg lurer på om det har hatt at det er hattehylle og liksom hattehylleknaggene, ikke sant? Jeg savner deg. Ok, det ha det. Si da, si. Si. Nei, vent da. Nei, jeg får ikke vise deg, jeg må legge på. Ja, det har. Hva falt Å, fy faen. Krypto skal ned i dass. Hallo? Ja. Ja, men heter den delen det? Er det den delen heter? Er det den lille, eller er det hele skitten? Ok, så det koster $70 for hele dritten? $70. Ja, og så visste jeg at den delen heter. Ok. For det er ikke den lille biten. Du må bytte hele den dritten inni bilen, ikke sant? Ja, for du må bytte hele den runde saken. Nei, men jeg skal sjekke nå. Greit for deg. Fytte faen. Altså, det helt sjukt at det lov til å handle med roboter, synes jeg. Da tror jeg en knekker. Ja, men du må jo ikke ripe i selve plastikken da? Må du ikke ripe den plastikken da? Du har ikke bare det som knekt, det var faen meg hakk i hele driten.
Jeg spurte hva det hakk i hele driten var. Mamma sa det var sånn, men det tviler jeg på.
Jeg tror ikke. Jeg tror det har blitt sånn når den har falt.
Det tror jeg også. Den har falt, og så har den...
Truffet videre nede, tror jeg da.
Mamma, når du var tid på den, så knakk den. Den knakk av. Når den knekker av, så er den ikke helt rett. Den er ruglete. Da riper den jo alt på veien ned, gjør den ikke det? Det er jo skarpt, den er knekt av. Plastikk kan også være skarpt. Den knekker ikke rett av. Ja, det er masse riper i hele bagasjerommet hans egentlig.
Fra før, eller?
Mm.
Ja, for han har jo hatt bikkje der, liksom. Men støttehjulet... Jeg fant...
Oi, det var skummelt ute, det er helt mørkt.
Ja, det er det.
Den felgen, det er sånne knopper på den, det er bare å feste på de knoppene til det.
Ja.
Hvorfor sa du at det er 4 stykk? Åja. Åja, nei. Åja. Ja, det er ikke sant.
Hæ?
Vent da. For det som jeg mener at... blir ikke den også bytta ut da?
Hele driten?
Jo, men er ikke det samme drit?
Det er det ikke jeg vet. Det der er ikke et problem hvis du bare vet hva faen det heter for noe. Det er så mange Teslaer som er på dynga, liksom, så det skal være minste problemet.
som du ser, det er jo faen meg riper i hele bilen hans fra før. Det er kloremerker, og det er slitasje da overalt. Ikke bare der den greia er hengt, liksom.
Ja, da kan du kanskje ta superlim, faktisk. Da kan du kanskje ta superlim.
Hva da?
Da kan du kanskje ta superlim.
Men
Hvis det er så mye riper og alt.
jo, det er jo det.
Ja,
Jeg har jo ikke
han
brukt
har jo hatt hundebur der og sånn, da.
Han har det.
Ja.
Men da kommer sikkert hundebordet til å ramle, da. Tror du ikke det?
Nei. Nei, men det vi gjør når vi ringer Tesla om morgenen. Nå vet du hva du vet hva den delen heter.
Så jeg vil sende en video. Oi, fuck, to sek.
Koster jo ikke en dritt, da. Koster $70, liksom.
Jeg kan ikke si at noen andre har lånt bilen heller, ikke sant? For da bare...
Nei, det er ditt ansvar når du har bilen.
Skjønner du? Jeg hadde ikke bilen, men det er greit. Prøver å se. For det er 4 sånne bilder, ikke sant? Det den har gjort, er at den bare har holdt... Jeg skjønner jo at øynene de ikke skjønte at den måtte av, for den er nesten ned på bakken, skjønner du?
Ja.
Så jeg skjønner at de ikke skjønte det.
Mm.
For den er på bakken.
Ja.
Men det går an å ta den av. Tydeligvis.
Hvordan fant du ut hva det het for noe?
Øyvind, det er ikke meg. Men hva med den delen som er festet til den matta da? Skal ikke den også...
Jeg vet ikke. Jeg driver også og søker mens jeg prater med deg.
Jeg har sendt deg bilder da.
Det hjelper ikke, for det står ikke hva det heter. Jeg skal finne det i Norge, ikke sant? Kalles for gulvstøtte. Men har Øyvind ringt Tesla da? Hvorfor ikke?
Fordi det er dyrt, at jeg har sagt at jeg kan betale alt.
Det koster jo ikke noe å ringe Tesla. Da finner vi ut hvor du får kjøpt det. Det er jævlig ålreit, sånn sett.
Ja. Nei, han har ikke ringt, så jeg vet ikke. Jeg har ikke peiling på biler.
Nei, men ikke stress, det ordner seg. Det er så lite, det er
Ikke stress, jeg tror fikse biler.
Jo da, men det er ikke noe, det ordner seg. Vi skal ringe rundt i morgen. Det er sånn ubetydelig del, liksom. Det koster 700 kroner.
Det er styrt. Så er det fort på 4000 da. Ofte. Det de fikk husteproblem plutselig. Ja. Nei, vi får se på det i morgen.
Vet du, så godt da. Ja.
Ok.
Da er jeg i penger. Jeg er i penger.
Always get a little bit of hate, but the first dude that had a big following that hated on me was really H3H3. Usually people would do a little hater video. I'd check my Insta DMs. You'd have like 1 a day out of 10,000 DMs saying, I hate you or whatever. Yeah. Dude, H3H3, I woke up one day and it was like, what the fuck? I checked my DMs. It's like, ah. And he had made that video and he's like, oh. So I remember being like, should I retaliate or I'm just going to reach out? And I invited him to the house. And when he came there, I was like, let me show you fucking, it's got my name on the
What was
damn
his,
title
what was his
of the car.
accusation that it was the rental for the day or something?
It was like one of these crazy videos that he does. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're like part goofy, part serious accusations. But we became friends after. Then he had me on his podcast. And so it's like that house was good. It was a hub. Sometimes I'm like, I should still be in that house. I've thought of maybe I'll go back to that house. It's a good social media.
Yeah.
It's just like LA now is a social media hub of the world. I mean, it's like the most. Maybe you can do that in Miami. It's just California. I don't like the taxes and all that stuff.
It's funny. It's one of my most viewed videos.
Maybe
the first year when I started my channel was breaking down your video.
Okay.
And it was why Ty Lopez ads are so effective. And I went
I'm
through
all
your
for
ads
IC markets.
and would break down why they work so well. And how I think it was the pattern interrupt was something that I mentioned in there. The storyline, but you kept deviating in the story. You're like, I'm going to tell you the 5 ways to get rich. Oh, by the way, this Lambo over here, I got this. This is so much fun to drive. All right. So the first thing you need to do, you know what? Actually, it's going to be too long. Sign up down below. Put in your email. It's always the email.
Right.
And I followed the whole thing because I was so curious why it was so effective. And I studied that because I found it so interesting.
That's what Logan Paul said when I met him. He's like, dude, I would watch your video and be like, what is this guy doing? But really, like I said, you have these 25 cognitive biases. I've got my own. So now I think there's like 40 cognitive biases. I've come up with kind of subsets. Going deep in psychology, but you have things like Kantian fairness, you have reciprocity, authority, social proof, Pavlovian responses, and all this stuff. So I tell people, if you're an entrepreneur, you really should take the psychology part to the nth degree to understand, because all money is really psychology.
Well, what I liked about yours was that they were filmed with an iPhone,
right?
And everyone else's was so professional,
right?
It made you feel like they're about to sell you something. Your thing is like filming with an iPhone. I remember too, you were filming and like someone walked in the front door and they didn't know you're filming. They just closed the door.
Yes. Yeah, my editors would always be like, take it out. I'm like, leave it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Or you drop something. I'm like, it looks real, man. Exactly. It looks real.
But I thought that just disarms the viewer into not thinking like, oh, he's just a random guy or an average guy, and this is not like some professional expensive setup, even though the house in the background was really expensive.
Yeah, there was a lot of dynamics going on in those videos. Like Harvard did like a case study on the videos. Like people were like, yo, I'm at Harvard or Wharton or whatever, and they're studying your video. I think at the end of the day, if you look at the richest man in the world now, Elon Musk, he is really king psychologist. Mm-hmm. He understands, he reads people very well. And I think I had the last conversation. He used to go to a lot of stuff that I would go to, and I had really interesting conversations with him. I posted a couple on my Instagram, but the last one I had, he said, "Do you think I should use Snapchat to grow my businesses?" And I was like, that was when Snapchat was big, like 2016, 2017. I was at the Game of Thrones world premiere. I was there, and he had sat next to me the month before at a movie premiere. So we were he didn't really know me, but he recognized me and he asked me that. And I said, well, yes. And he listened to me for like 20 minutes. And at the end, I'm like, what do you think? And he goes, I think you're wrong. I don't think you need social media. And I remember for years, I used to tell that story of how Elon Musk shut me up. But now I'm like, God damn it, I was right. It was like, it wasn't Snap, it was Twitter. Yeah. Like, you need this. It's when you're a master psychologist like Elon Musk. If you don't have
litt for meg i dag. For her oppe så gikk jeg short og long om hverandre 100 ganger. Hele tida. Ut inn på samme kurs. Jeg ble usikker. Det gikk ikke opp, det gikk ikke ned, det gikk ikke opp, det gikk ikke ned. Så jeg bare gikk og scalpa helt opp. Bam, 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 bam. Så jeg gikk jo på minus $43 hver gang jeg kjøpte. Og så hvis jeg tok $5 i stopploss som er ingenting, så ble det plutselig nesten 50 spenn igjen. Nei, $50 hver gang. Så det ble jo gigantisk ødela hele dagen min for å tjene penger til å så tape på spredden. Det er ikke ofte jeg gjør det. Det var litt kjedelig. Men nå har jeg fått short. Jeg skjønte ikke den bevegelsen i dag. Jeg synes det var jævla vanskelig, ass. Jeg trakk som faen på hele dagsen i dag. Shorta til helvete. Gjorde det dritbra. Tjente masse penger. Og så kommer USA, og så fikk vi den dårlige nyheten. De dårlige makrotallene. Og så skjønte jeg ikke hva faen er det som... Hvorfor i helvete går det opp?
Nei, det er den siste, det er den siste bevegelsen skjønte jeg ingenting av. Og så gikk jeg long, og så gikk jeg short. Tjente 9000. Og så var jeg her oppe, så var jeg liksom litt redd for å gå long, for jeg synes det var så jævla høyt. Og du har liksom ikke noe, ingenting her oppe, liksom. Det er helt oppe i dødsone. Jeg tenkte, ok, greit. Så gikk jeg short, så gikk jeg long, så gikk jeg short, så gikk jeg long, gikk jeg short, gikk jeg long. Så ser du ikke bare helt rett der. Og så sitter jeg og ser på kontoen min liksom, for å se liksom hvor mye jeg har tjent, så bare, oi, helvete, minus 45, 50, 55, 45, 55. Aha. Det ødela litt, da. Jeg går til å sovne på stolen.
You can't scale your message very well.
Yeah.
So I was like, for people, this is one of the problems with influencers now, especially people trying to become an influencer. So now you have the loud megaphone that reaches, let's say, a third of the world every day is on social media, 2-3 billion people, right? But since you haven't mastered psychology, you're kind of just doing all this activity and it's not going to catch on. When you think of the Andrew Tates or the Hormozis or all the people that people ask me about, I'm like, no. They first, at some point, I don't know all of their stories, they mastered the psychology of delivering content. You know, they're good at it. The pace, the vocal intonations, and also things like you said, like diverging off. And what's interesting is my style is more one that meanders. And some people don't like it. You know, people are probably divided. If you ever seen 16 Personalities?
No.
It's like an online test where you're like ENTP, INFJ.
Yeah. Right.
So that's
Myers-Briggs.
It's Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
It's based on Carl Jung. It's Jungian psychology.
Sure.
And so each of those letters represent part of your personality. And one of them is called an N versus an S. An N is intuitive. An S is sensing. Sensing people like very practical stuff. So I've noticed, I don't even know, I don't watch that much, but like some of them deliver you, it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you the 3 ways to make money. And they just like write it right quickly. Mm-hmm. Then there's other people who tell stories and they're longer, more meandering. About half the population likes the style where you just get right to it. And half of them likes the long meandering. So I was attracted to people who like the longer meandering versus here's the exact way to create wealth, because there is no exact way to create wealth. In fact, I could teach you how to create wealth, but everything's creating its opposite. In a world of free market capitalism, if I teach you what I did in 2016, it did make me money, but it won't work now because too many people are doing it.
Yeah.
Money's made on the edge.
As soon as you did that, everyone else began copying.
Yeah.
I think in the beginning it was you, Grant Cardone,
Yep.
and Alex Becker.
Yeah.
That I think were doing fantastic
Yeah.
at doing those ads. And then shortly after, you get everybody
Yes.
copying the exact same thing.
Yes. So now what's working is more like, if you see what Andrew Tate did, his was more like podcast snippets. It wasn't as much of him and like really strong,
Well, it's not
quick,
even an
hooky
ad,
things.
though. Now I think if you see an ad, like that would devalue his brand
Right.
to run any sort of ad whatsoever.
Yes. But if you listen, it's not just that people are reposting. It's strong content. It's like, you know, I'm richer than, you know, what's interesting, kind of this thing of like, I'm richer than you, I'm the alpha.
Colors your Bugatti.
Do you remember like 10 years ago, there was a website called The Rich Jerk. You ever heard? No. This is one of the best copywriters. He didn't put his face on it. I know the real dude. His name's Kelly Felix. He built that whole thing where it's like, I'm the fucking badass. Listen to me, pet plebs. And it worked back then, but there wasn't the megaphone. 2012, 2013, like there was no TikTok. So he made many millions off that. So that's nothing new under the sun, man. People are just rehashing the same hooks that work.
And the thing that this famous ad and the other, you know, following ads were all routing to was this 67, it was like steps.
Well, I had other stuff. I built this SMMA course in 2016 called Social Media Marketing Agency. That so many people got results making money. I would almost go, if I had a way to document this, I would go to head with anything that's been put out, college or otherwise, of taking more people from rags to riches in that program. I showed people how to make $1,000 to $10,000 a month, charging businesses to do their Facebook ads and social media. I built this 4-month training course. It was insane. At one point, I had a lawyer. Half of his day was just collecting all the testimonials and verifying. Just like people were like, I made 100,000. Even to this day, I get people.
That was a good time to start too.
Oh yeah, I crushed. So 67 steps were first. Then I built out different specific systems, like how you can. 67 steps was more like a general mindset, and then SMMA was like a practical way to build a business. And that's what Logan Paul went into. Those guys were all in that. Yeah,
I think you did Airbnb after.
I did Airbnb. Yeah. I've done all kinds. I've done how to build an e-commerce scaling. So I built like what I think.
How much is that made combined? What do you think the net profit on that is?
I don't know on the net, but I mean, it's in the hundreds of millions. I should know this, right? But the reason I say I don't know exactly is because so many things I do now, like, do I count it as 67 steps or it upsold into all this other stuff? But I mean, it's in the hundreds of millions.
That's insane.
You know?
Why did you decide?
And it's not all profit, but you have marketing costs. But
why would you decide to leave YouTube? Because you were doing so well on that for, what was it, 3-4 years where it really, you were dominating the YouTube ad space and posting consistently on top of that.
I started buying businesses and it just like blew up and took a lot of my time. Like I bought Pier 1, I bought Radio Shack, I bought Dress Barn. Like I just bought myself and an SPV, we bought 75% of a publicly traded NASDAQ company. So the last 3 years has just been like, I just didn't have time. You run out of time in the day, you know?
Yeah. Why did you do that?
That's a great question because they said, like, why do you try to climb Mount Everest? Because it's there. That's probably why, you know? It's like,
I think a lot of people would see like Pier 1 and see these otherwise failing businesses that are not doing well. Wouldn't you think that that's going to be like a Blockbuster? Let's just let them, you know.
I tried to buy Blockbuster. I'd buy Blockbuster all day, turn into competitor to Netflix. I tried. The guy who owned it is up not far from here. Pier 1 wasn't failing as much. It was only failing because COVID shut all the stores down. And when you have 1,200 stores, and let's say your average lease, just pick a number, is $100,000 a year, but you can't open the store and make 1 penny of revenue, do the math.
Yeah, but weren't they getting also COVID stimulus checks and you'd be able to apply for plenty of loans? No?
Not enough. That COVID, large footprints of retail stores locked in at pre-COVID leases. So Pier 1 was a good business that was temporarily put out of business.
My understanding, though, is that the revenue was declining and that they were losing market share to online. I could be wrong. You've looked into
a little.
This way
I
more
mean, it
than
was
I
doing
have.
$1.7 billion of revenue, and I bought it for $31 million. Time will tell if it's. Look, man, you make bets, and I'm not an omnipotent person, but you make your bets and you live with them. And I think buying distressed assets, it works in real estate. I know you do a lot of stuff with real estate. It's my philosophy on real estate. Like Grant Cardone buys stuff more at any time of the market, right? He's been buying multifamily at arguably pretty high valuations, which is working for him. But I like to buy low. Maybe it's because I'm a college dropout. I have a simple investing formula. Buy low. It's the ultimate margin of safety. And I think a lot of people in the last 5 years, I was looking at, Redfin, like Open Door, all these. Open Door, I was just looking at the news. Open Door, 1,500 homes they bought in January this year. Now they're dumping all of them.
Yeah, it's a terrible business.
For 100,000 less than they paid. That's $150 million loss.
Stupid idea. Zillow tried to copy it. It's a bad idea.
But I want to come and buy that block of homes.
Could it be BlackRock who's going to buy them? Some big institution's going to offer them one flat rate. Buy them all.
But I've outbid institutions, man. Buying Pier 1, big. I was up against a big private equity firm called Sycamore. These are the guys that bid on Victoria's Secret. These are multi-billion-dollar. You can win. You can win against these guys.
And how much did you pay?
I paid $31 million. The public auction.
Well, what about Radio Shack? How much did you pay to buy Radio Shack?
That one's private. It's undisclosed. But yeah, that one we own with a billionaire guy.
What's the plan with these? To revitalize and sell?
Yeah, now brick and mortar. We want to open the stores back up. For 2 years, you bought them. You couldn't open the stores. It was COVID restrictions. but we bought a, now is the opportunity. I still believe brick and mortar, if you do the stores of the right size, if they're too big, like Bed Bath & Beyond, you saw the news, like the CFO killed himself, jumped out of his apartment in New York. Those stores are huge. They have 100,000 square foot stores. It's going to fail. You have to right size the business. Adaption,
How is that going to compete with Amazon that's now offering same day delivery? For me, it would be such an inconvenience to go and
So one thing is you can take all our brands and put them on Amazon. So if you can't beat them, join them. That's number one. Number two, there's some things people still like going into stores. For example, even with Pier 1 now, we used to have a huge fragrance business. Pier 1 was like the number 3 fragrance, candles, all this stuff. $250 million a year it was doing in its stores. We switched everything to online. Guess what? We found out women like to come in and smell the candles. So it's a tougher bit. Like Amazon, you can beat Amazon for that. Think about it. You can't try new stuff. I guess you could order 20 new candles and smell them and send all the ones back, but people are still going to stores. The full demise of retail, I don't think will happen. I just think it's a shift.
Okay. Now, bodybuilding.com was something that was surprising to me because I would shop at bodybuilding.com a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that was being sold.
Yeah, it was off-market deal.
How did that come about?
So it was, I keep my feelers out with all the investment bankers, business brokers, and stuff like that. That one came up. Is a huge business, one of the original supplement, like before Amazon, but it's been on the decline. And I think it's like Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest or the smartest who survive, it's the most adaptable. So I think if you don't adapt, all these businesses are going to disappear, including Apple. Have you, iMessage sucks. Do you use iMessage?
Yeah, I do. I like it.
WhatsApp's so much better. WhatsApp, you have good voice memos. It's easy to delete stuff. You can have disappearing messages. WhatsApp has shot up.
Messages copy all of
course,
that?
But how many years? They haven't innovated at all. I'll make a prediction.
Sure.
There's a serious chance your grandchildren won't know who Apple is. Look at Facebook. I've been saying that. I'm like, Facebook did not adapt. And TikTok ate their lunch in 3 years. Really been 3 years, maybe 2. And, they got all into the metaverse, and I'm going, this is a niche product.
What do you think of the metaverse?
It's a niche product. First off, everything's the metaverse already. If you define metaverse as a digital illusion, then that's what YouTube is, man. I mean, look, people are going to watch this thing. We're not really there, but they're going to be watching it while they're sitting, lay in bed.
Yeah, but couldn't we improve this by putting on VR goggles and it's like someone could sit right there in that chair?
That would be kind of cool. You could look around, see all of us at the same time.
I would love to do that. I think, and it would almost be like you're watching in person.
But let me just throw this out. Do you think a lot of people woke up today and they're like, you know what's missing in my life?
No.
My goggles to watch.
No, but the thing is,
to be in this room
it would be cool,
and
no
look
one's gonna
around.
But nobody would think that that's something they need until they have it. Like no one would think they need an iPhone and like, why would I need to browse the internet while I'm out? I'll get back and check my voicemail. It's like when it's there,
it would be cool for like a a premium viewing experience. But at the same time, I like just on my phone going out in the backyard.
Yes.
You know what?
And a lot of people just listen too.
But this was a great quote. It was Henry, and this got me thinking. Henry Ford said, if I asked the customers what they wanted, they would say a faster horse.
Yes.
And that got me thinking that people don't know what they want, and you have to provide it to them.
I think VR for porn might be big.
I think, but
I don't know how many goggles dudes will be like, yo, what's missing in my life? I'm not looking around at the lighting system.
Well, my understanding is that porn very much paves the way for a lot of these in terms of video.
But the one where
quality.
It feels like real thing, that's when porn will be big. You know what's interesting? Remember Clubhouse?
Yes, I do.
So it was like a one-hit wonder. It popped in. I did this first person to do. I think I had the biggest room. Eventually, Elon made the biggest a couple weeks later. But I had 2,000 people, and I go, I'm just going to talk by myself. No interviews. I didn't let anybody else on, nobody. And I talked, and it went for 7 hours and held. It was insane. I started 3, and I ended at 10.
Speaking of failing businesses, what's going on with Clubhouse? I feel like no one is using it anymore.
Yeah. To me, I have a simple diagnosis of what went wrong. It's just a hypothesis, but I think I'm right. Somebody went in there. I don't know if somebody was jealous of people who had big rooms. They killed big rooms. They changed the algorithm. Somebody made the decision it's better to have 10,000 rooms of 10 people than, 100 huge rooms, which I think is so wrong. If you look, the whole Pareto principle is what drives social media. It's like 20% of the influencers get all the views on anything, Insta, TikTok. So that's like saying, I don't want, Kim Kardashian to have 300 million followers. I want to have a whole bunch of people who have 300,000 followers. It's a big psychology mistake. That's why I said, if you can people ask me, what do you read a lot? I'm like, I read psychology more than anything, because psychology, really, health, wealth, love, happiness. To be healthy, you have to master your own psychology to like eat right and go to the gym. It's like self-discipline, right? Wealth, all the money in the world is in other people's hands. So if you don't understand those people and connect with them at a deep level, they're not going to give you any money. There'll be no free trade. Love is all a social game: friends, family, romance. And then lastly, happiness is literally almost how people perceive the purpose of psychology. So to me, Clubhouse, they didn't understand. They understood psychology at the beginning.
Yeah.
Make it free. Make it, you have to have an invite code. It was a very San Francisco thing. It was like, oh, and they only gave like these key influencers.
I remember Google Plus did that, and I was like, oh man, does anybody have an invite code to Google Plus?
Yes.
It was dead in like a month.
Facebook did that at the beginning. You had to have a college address.
Yeah.
And every dude wanted it because there was like
EDU.
Yeah. There was like pretty women on there, so every dude was like, trying to get an EDU address so they could talk to all the like 22-year-olds.
What do you think of Elon Musk charging $8 a month for verification? Think he's going to do a good job with Twitter?
I would not bet against Elon Musk. He seems to be a prolific success machine. But he has experiments that fail. I just read this book called The New Book on Elon Musk. There's a new book on Elon Musk. I finished it on the flight here from Europe. And he's tried lots of stuff that's failed. This $8 one, the good news, if you're an Elon Musk fan, is he's begun the iteration process, and he'll just keep going until he finds something. He's good enough, he'll shut it off if it doesn't work. I'm not sure that's your salvation. I'm not sure why it's $8 for a blue verification
He
mark.
wanted to charge 15, and someone commented underneath that. Maybe it was 20. It's 15 or 20. Someone commented underneath. I forget who the guy was. I'd know his name if you say it. And he said, that's too expensive. I wouldn't pay that. And then Elon Musk replies back immediately after, okay, fine, it's $8.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's $8 then? And that's how he came up with the number.
Yeah, he came up.
He's a spitballing back and forth.
That's how he got in all that trouble with the SEC.
Yeah.
He said funding secured 420, and he came up with that because he thought his girlfriend Grimes would think, because 420, April 20th. Weed day.
Yeah.
And the SEC was like, and he admitted to the SEC, like, that's probably not a good way to price the stock based off weed. But he's, but that's, again, we're here talking about how he came up with $8.
Yeah.
That he's a puppet master of people. He's a puppet master, and probably the best maybe the best entrepreneur who ever lived. He's obviously a great innovator and scientist at some level, but not as good. There's been plenty of those.
Now, how do you find the balance, though, between being at that right point where people are talking about you enough, but not going to such an extreme where it's maybe like a Kanye West, where all of a sudden start burning bridges?
You ever seen Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
It's like Robert Downey Jr. It's one of the funniest comedy, and he's like, you went full retard. Never go full retard. Like, Kanye may have gone full retard. Like, you can take stuff a little bit too far. By the way, that's me quoting a movie. I know it's not politically correct, but if you see in the movie, it's like, Kanye attacked Jewish people. If you ever been to LA or New York, it's like, that's a powerful group of people who, and it's like, do you want to pick your battles, man? And so I think there you go. There's this concept in The Good Life that you were talking about, Socrates. Socrates said, like, to be angry is easy, but to be angry at the right person at the right time for the right reason, for the right duration, with the right intensity, that's hard. And so to Socrates is really Aristotle, but to live the good life, everything's in proportion. So it's like, how controversial do you want to be? If you're not controversial enough, you're lost in the sea of noise of social media. But how many people have been kicked off all the big platforms recently for being too extreme? And then you lose your voice. Look at if you watch the Google searches on big people who have been deplatformed, it goes down when you get deplatformed. So the question, the ideal is take it right up to the nth degree, but not so much that other humans retaliate. And you have to realize the human species right now is extremely divided because everybody has a voice. So like America is insanely politically divided. There's not much of a middle. There's a middle, but you don't meet that many people who are like, Donald Trump, no opinion on him. Like or even Joe Biden. Yeah. It's very extreme president. I'm not sure what's wrong with America that we have such, it's like either you have a guy.
Social media is causing a lot of that?
It's definitely the media.
It's like social media though, because now they're able to show you both extremes of what gets views.
Right. Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt that social media is feeding the fire, but the fire was already there in the sense that you can go back 500 years ago. Extreme news made the news. Like people were talking about Catherine the Great, in the 1500s or the 1600s, I say. So like, I think that you have to be careful. A guy that I know, one of the smartest guys I know in finance, he said, listen, Ty, I've watched, he's corporate takeover guys, like complicated guy, like Carl Icahn type person. And he's like, I've watched it a million times. When people succeed, they get this like emperor syndrome, like I can never fail. And they push the boundaries until they fall off the cliff. And so you have to always stay humble to go, yeah, I'm not sure you should always say everything you think. And now some people would say, no, I like that Kanye's so authentic or Trump's so authentic, but there's diminishing returns on telling everything. Like if I walk in a room and I think that person's ugly, I don't have to go up and be like, I just say what I think. Like you're horribly, disgusting to me. Like some things you have to shut up. And so everybody wants to take it to the nth degree. But you see there with Kanye, it's like, do you want to lose your empire? And I'll tell you this, Kanye has a chance. He's a sharp enough, again, kind of a social, puppet master psychology. He may make it back. I wouldn't bet against Kanye fully. But is it the world's greatest chess move to lose your whole Yeezy empire? Like, it's a tough chess move. He may be playing such a complex game that maybe I'm not smart enough to understand it.
I don't know if he knows what he's doing, but he'll maybe figure out a way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's adaptive. The thing about Kanye, though, to his defense,
Jeg så jævla glad når dere aner ikke. Jeg fikk en jævla kul nyhet.
People, America roots. America hates. It's just a very David and Goliath part of America. So like.
Peder, du skal være med på det. Nei, jeg har blitt holdt fanget i 2 måneder nå. Jeg kan snakke om det etter i morgen. Jeg har blitt holdt sjakkmatt. For å si det på den måten. Fy faen, jeg er glad, ass. Ja, det skal dundres på nå, det skal jeg love deg. Jeg kan ta det med deg i morgen, for jeg vil gjerne at du skal være med på det.
So ideologically slanted that it pisses me off. And so I think that Kanye, for the good news.
Jeg har blitt holdt så jævla sjakkmatt at du vil ikke tro det. Nå ble jeg jævla glad. Nå ordner det seg. Du vet når du på en måte har gjort en avtale med noen, og så blir du puttet i sånn. Du har gitt fra deg alt for mye, da. Og så blir du bare låst. Og så vet du at hvis du ja, du blir bare låst. Ja, du blir puttet av bur. Det som at hvis du gjør en deal med noen, da, ikke sant? Så tror du at den dealen er jævlig bra for deg. Du tror det er bra for deg, for det er mye uttrykk for at de vet hva de driver med. Og så går det gjerne en liten par måneder, da, så skjønner du at i helvete, her er det du som gjør all businessen, her er det du som gjør alt, og så blir du faen meg sitter du og på en måte er showet selv, da. Og så blir du lovt gule og grønne skoler, og så bare Nei. Jeg har sluttet å tygge det. Heldigvis for meg da, så har ikke jeg så jævlig mye respekt for folk med mye penger. Jeg gir fullstendig faen. Så har jeg gitt beskjed nå, når jeg gikk til min vei, så nå ble jeg veldig, veldig glad. Jeg har blitt brukt, ja. Jeg ble brukt en gang i 2011 til 2014, og så klarte jeg faen meg bli det igjen nå, for 2 måneder siden. Og nå ble jeg fristilt. Jepp. Men jeg har ikke så mye short da, jeg har bare short 7 kontrakter. Men jeg må over på IC Markets i morgen. Jeg kan ikke trade med 23 i spread. Det er faen meg 50 spread begge veier. Eller 48. Hvor mye blir det da? 46. Nei, da har ikke jeg vært så aktiv på TikTok heller. Jeg har ikke gitt sagt ut noen. Jeg har vært sånn superdeprimert siste måneden. Jeg har jobbet som faen og faktisk dratt inn en del penger da. Og så har jeg ikke fått noe av pengene. Ingenting. Sitter med gjeld til helvete fortsatt. Like pult. Ja, det er 23 pips, ja. Jeg er helt bak mål. Ja, jeg har tradet jævla bra hver dag egentlig. Jeg tradet faktisk bra i dag også. Jeg var jævla flink i dag. Jeg bare tappte all gevinsten min her oppe når jeg gikk ut inn på samme kurs. Jeg får liksom ikke dratt. Jeg får ikke dratt skjermen over hit. Så jeg har faktisk gjort det bra i dag, skjønner du. Jeg har gjort det bra hver dag. Faktisk. Men det er det jeg liker med dagen i dag har vært kjedeligste dagen jeg har vært borte. Ja, det var veldig kjedelig. Men det er det som jeg synes er så morsomt når du driver scalper, altså sånn jeg hjalp på da. Du er mer swing trader, ikke sant? Men sånn som her oppe, i og med at jeg er så kjapp på bevegelsen, ikke sant? Så kan jeg bare gå ut inn hele tiden. Så det gjør ikke når jeg går ut inn på 0. Taper $5 her, tjener $10 her, taper $10 her, taper $20, tjener $5. Ikke sant? Se på den bevegelsen her, helt flatt. Det var det som ødela for meg i dag. Jo, men det er ikke så rart da. Det var jo Frankrike var stengt i dag, og UK. Jeg visste jo ikke det. Men det var jævla kjedelig dag, altså. Men fy faen jeg traff på shorten min i dag på dagsen. Den gikk faen meg bra, altså. Jeg har shortet hele veien, altså. Jævla fornøyd med den, faktisk. Nei, fy faen jeg er glad, ass. Vet du hva jeg er? Best friends were in business with me, my family, so I'd see them every night. I was going out with friends. It was very like European life. Like Europeans are like, Americans work too hard. They used to call America the merchant class. Yeah. They're like, they just care about money. And there's some truth. Like I live in Scandinavia. Scandinavians have the best life. That is a place that has good ratios.
So when you look back on this time period in your life where you felt like you were pretty at balance, can you walk us through maybe like an average day or explain where you were at in each of those 4 categories?
Yeah, I think like the day, if I could build in my past the best average day or the best day, what that daily routine looked like, I would be like, I think it's simple. I think you should wake up and exercise. It's like, just do them in order. Health, wealth, love, happiness. So like health, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I was at his house and I was like, can I interview you? In his kitchen. He smokes cigars in his kitchen. Pretty funny. Sitting there smoking a cigar is like right in the kitchen. I was like, okay. And I said, what's your daily routine? He's like, I wake up at 4 to 5, I feed my brain, get my brain health, so he reads for an hour. And he's like, 5, I get on my bicycle and I ride to Gold's Gym, and I work out, and I come back at 7, I eat breakfast, and then 8, I start working. I was thinking, that's a hard schedule to beat. I don't think you have to wake up at 4. I've tried the thing where you wake up crazy early. I think it's genetic. I think some people are more night owls because I did experiment for like a year where I woke up at 3. I would wake up at 3:30 and I wanted everybody in the office, my leaders there at 4, and we'd do a leader meeting.
Oh my God. How was that? Did you notice any difference in productivity?
No, probably worse.
Really?
That's what, now when I was
How
on
long did you do that for?
until everybody like burnt out. All the leaders are like, I'm not going to do this, man, because they were having to like drive in, get up at 2:45 and stuff. So, but the general gist is wake up. What I try to do is like wake up on my best days. Wake up. I read right away. I think iBooks is the most underrated app in the world is iBooks. On my phone, I've got so many good books. It's literally insane. So here's my library. You can just see and I have audiobooks too.
Oh, you do audiobooks
Both.
or read? Okay.
But like when I wake up, here's this new book on Elon Musk, Power Play, great book. Here's Miss Jane Pittman, story of she was
Reading on
born a
Andrew
slave.
Carnegie.
Yeah, and that was
Carnegie's
The
great.
Gospel of Wealth. This is the autobiography of Charles Darwin. I think the best thing to read is textbooks and
Snakes some more.
autobiographies or biographies. I've got Ishi, that was the last Native American in America. Sun Tzu's The Art of War. This is a book by a rock star. This is the book I read. This Michael Gross is the story of like supermodels. I'm the second largest owner of Wilhelmina Models, which is the biggest model company. I read Contagious, which is a psychology book.
Do you have like a list of like where you log all of the books that you're reading?
Yeah, tylopez.com/books. I have this free one. I'm not selling anything there. But I've got 659 books. I've read only 176. So I just like when I'm on a flight. So I think the best thing is what Arnold said. Wake up, read or audiobooks just a little bit. Then some form of low intensity cardio. He does a bicycle. Takes him about 30 minutes to get to gym. I walk. So like when I'm in Puerto Rico, my gym is exactly about 1.5 miles. I walk there, low intensity, walk back. I try to get to 20,000 steps a day. There's some new science that you really should try. Men were built to walk about 22,000 steps, which is 10 miles. And if you look at like hunter-gatherers, there's a new book called Exercise by this Daniel Lieberman, who's a paleoanthropologist. He studies your bone structure. He's at Harvard, and he studied women on average walk about a little bit less, 7 miles a day. So little reading for the brain, health of the brain, even if it's just a page, like it cleanses the mind. It's like, I always said, like, especially if you read somebody, you brought up Socrates, read something classic. It's almost like mental hygiene. It's like soap. You get to wash off all the TikTok, like all the stupid stuff. It's like you read like Civilization is Discontent, which may be the most compact book of value in the last 1,000 years. That's like Sigmund Freud. There's the second chapter. I probably read it 300 times. So maybe read that, then walk, then hit the gym. So you've done health, then go make money. I think in an ideal world, I think the 4-hour work week is too weirdly low. Like working 4 hours a week, I think you'll lose meaning. Humans built to work a little bit, you know? So I think like 4 hours a day is a better goal. So 4 or 5 hours a day of work, and then so it's health, wealth. So now you knocked the health out, you knocked the wealth out. Now love, friends, family, romance. Like evenings, when I was at my favorite time in my life, evenings was like come about 6 or 7 o'clock. It's like going out with friends, dinner, comedy club, movie, restaurant, and just like for a long time, like 3-4 hours. And I would incorporate my dating life. Like I rarely would go on one-on-one dates. Adrian, how often would I do one-on-one dates? Like never, especially first dates. I'm like, never. You get stuck with somebody. It's like, oh man. I'd be like, hey, I'm out with like 15 people. Come meet me. So much better. I met this Brazilian girl one time. Right when she got out of the car, I was like, this is not my type. But my friend Jeremy was there, and I was like, you can meet my friend, so you can even be like, yeah, you can pass somebody on who's not a good date. It worked out great. They stayed together for 5 years. You know what's funny? Wow. They never were not together for 5 straight years.
Really?
Every day.
What happened? What happened after 5 years? So a long time.
She got super jealous. This is no joke. Yeah. He's like, I think she's too jealous. I was like, why do you think that? Because he likes like guys say they don't like when a woman does this, but I'm like, but you stay with her for 5 years. She was angry that he set the navigation voice to a sexy girl's voice. And she brought it up as a big thing, as like, I feel like, am I not enough for you? No, real. I can't make this up. She's like, do you think she's might be a little too extreme. I'm like, yes. I'm like, the fact you have to ask me if that's too extreme, I'm worried about your mental health. But so they eventually broke up, and he's married now. But
he should have used Samuel Jackson's voice. That's always my favorite.
That's your navigation voice?
No, it used to be.
That's good.
I loved it.
So you got health, wealth, love.
Yeah.
Then you get home and you go to bed happy because happy. I always say, so in the 4 pillars, I say health is the necessity of the good life. Okay. Wealth is the indispensable of the good life. Like, even if you don't like money, you're going to have it because you don't make your own clothing or build your own home or, mine your own coal to heat the house. Love is the purpose of life. Even if you're not a romantic person and you talk to Dr.botox, he's like, everything's mating. Like, humans are built around mating, right? Evolution. Love. And then happiness is the culmination of the good life. If you've done the first 3 pillars, it's what Michael Jordan says. He goes, you don't strive for greatness. You do all the right things, and then it's bestowed upon you. That's how he looked at winning 6 rings as an NBA basketball champion. So to me, it's like the last pillar you cannot chase. It's like a cat. If you want to pet a cat, it doesn't want you to pet it. But when you do everything else right, it comes up to you. Yeah. And so you've got the necessity, you've got the indispensable, you've got the purpose, and then lastly, you'll go to bed and wake up happy. That's the culmination of these first 3 being perfectly aligned. But you got to align them. You can't do, like, I know people, I have friends that work, 16 hours on making money or 15 hours. And then they go to the gym for 20 minutes. I'm like, the ratio's off. It's not going to work. And actually, there's good science. Even the U.S. government put something out, said if you sit 8 hours a day, a 1 hour on the treadmill basically does nothing. It does not offset it. So even like the cheesy U.S. government kind of standards.
So what are you supposed to do if you work 8 hours a day at a cubicle or at a computer? You can't go to the gym for like 5 hours. So how do you
treadmill desk? Treadmill desk is the most practical investment a person can make of $1,200, dude. Like, I don't sit. This right here, I bet you I sit less than 20 minutes a day on average. Sitting is the destruction of the human body.
I've actually heard that a lot.
It is.
Sitting it's horrible.
It's way better to go. I lay on a couch all the way, like lay and read, or I go back in my bed and lay down. Humans are not. You're better off squatting. Like you see, like old villagers that like squat down. But humans sitting,
So you're saying laying down is better than sitting?
And basically, anything. Go to your job and be like, yo, I'm gonna pace. Like I was on this airplane back from Europe. It was 10 hours to get here, London to Vegas. And I went, there's that little area, even though I had a lie flat, but they have that little area where you can have snacks. And I don't know if the stewardess thought I was a terrorist or something. I was going to try to like open. She kept checking on me like every 20 minutes. She's like, are you okay? Do you want to go sit down? I'm like, no, I don't want to fucking sit. So I got in like 5,000 steps by walk. You look at dudes, like my dad was in prison, people in a little prison cell keep themselves. You see those dudes all ripped up. They walk around for like 6 hours a day in a little cell. So
walking is important.
Yeah. Walk, man. Walk and lift. I've worked on this thing called the $1 Million Body. So it's going to come out as a book and an ebook and a course. Cheap. I'm going to charge like $1. But so in 2015, my health was like going down. I looked at myself. I'm like, what the fuck? I lost muscle mass. I was just like so focused on this business. So I said, I'm going to spend $1 million over 5 years, 200,000 approximately a year. I probably spent $1.5 million, but let's say $1 million. I said, I'm going to try everything, every supplement, TRT. I'm going to try, all the hydrotherapy. I'm going to try every diet, veganism, keto, this, that. I'm going to do heavyweight, CrossFit, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. I did everything, and I tested the key was get real scientific data. So my nurse that used to come to my house once a month, she's like, Ty, you're over. She made me sign a waiver. She's like, you're not supposed to take this much blood out of your body. I took like 40 vials per time, and I did it monthly for a couple years. And I did a DEXA scan, which is like the best muscle mass, accurate, better than like water displacement or any of that. And so I did that, and so I really went deep down the rabbit hole of health. And your blood, the blood tells the truth. You test your blood, you know the truth. Like sometimes you look healthy. People on steroids can look healthy, but like their blood's all, and it's also ratios. So it's like you can have total testosterone high, but if you have too much estrogen or sex binding globulin or hormone, right, it ties up your free test. So this thing about being in balance, you even find with health. But the number one thing that I just tell people is like, start with walking, but then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, lift heavy weight. That changes your blood a lot. Like improves you better than anything else you can do. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, do high intensity interval training, something like a sport. But you have to spike. I had this guy, random guy, he's like a UFC fighter, but like no name. He didn't do that well in the UFC. Remember that Norwegian guy? I don't know if you remember. He had red. In the testing on all the machines for the UFC, he came as the fittest person who's ever been through the UFC lab. So I asked him, I was like, bro, what's your trick? He's like, 3 times a week, spike the heart like super high, like 20 times. So you can get this cheap thing you put on your chest. If you work out according to heartbeat, it's much better because when you're out of shape, you'll overtrain yourself and kind of hurt yourself at the beginning. And when you're in shape, you'll undertrain. So you basically do heartbeat trying to keep yourself. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, do that high intensity stuff and then walk 6 days. And then Sunday, do nothing. Like I try to get my steps to like 200 steps. I'm like, I'm going to hire somebody to like wheel me around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because if you do, there's good science. This new exercise book by this Lieberman guy also talks about that. You need about 1 day per 7 days of like insane. That's something I learned from the Amish. They work crazy hard, but they stop on Sunday. Or else you're basically your reproductive side, like your sex, your test. If you do too much, you don't want to mess up your reproductive side.
Yeah. So how much muscle have you put on lately?
I put on.
I noticed.
Yeah, I've spiked. Like when I was on TRT, you'll go up. And I have kind of naturally, my dad was a pro bodybuilder, so my baseline is a little like 700-800, but I've spiked it. TRT, go to 3,000. That's a crazy, you get strong, boy. And I did it all legally with like doctor stuff. A lot of dudes on social are like they're on TRT, but they don't want to say. I don't know why people don't want to say. I'm like, probably every male on earth will be on TRT by like the end of this century.
It's becoming a lot more common.
Shit, just like the only reason I don't like TRT is if you want to have kids, your sperm count goes like fucking 0. Which, if you don't want to have kids, better in birth control is fucking TRT. Like you get all jacked up, you get strong. I could bench like, I was repping like 315.
But isn't it true that you have to stay on it then for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I mean that's why I don't do it. I haven't done it for years. You can gain muscle without it. You're just not gonna look like Superman. So I don't think you should do it, is my basic thing. But what I do think you should do, test the blood and take the specific things. Now, the thing about supplements I found, where everybody goes wrong, they take years to kick in, but they eventually kick in. So if you do like your supplements for like 2 months, there's 0 benefit. That shit, and I've learned that. I have 1,300 acres of farmland. I'm very much focused on the soil. Like fertile soil is like the basis of a civilization. And the soil's the same way. When your soil's out of balance, doesn't have enough calcium, phosphorus, it takes you like 2 years to really revive the soil. There's a slow metabolism of the soil, and our body is built to not make quick changes. So like you might be low on magnesium. So I got Ben Greenfield. He's a guy who's been on like Joe Rogan 3 times. I paid him, I don't know how much, $25,000 to build like a supplement program just for me. But if you can't do that, I mean, there's some simple stuff. Eat organ meats, like the Liver King guy. Have you seen that guy?
We had him on the podcast.
Yeah, you had him?
Yeah.
So like but I will tell you the problem with that is you can actually, my B's are too high.
Your what?
So your B vitamins, you get a lot of B's from these things. Like you can also poison yourself on liver. You have to be careful with that stuff. That's why I said the problem is social media, everything extreme goes viral, which then we see on our feed, which we then believe is gospel because it's basically brainwashing. It's subliminal messaging that brainwashes you. But the truth is there's always some truth. So every extreme person you can name, even extreme feminists, there's some truth to what they say. Like men are definitely killers compared to women. You know, ultra feminists are like, if there was less men, there'd be less crime. I'm like, that's definitely true. if you go on Wikipedia, out of 1,000 serial killers, count them for yourself. There's 2 serial killer women and 998 men the last time I did a count. So there's truth in every extreme. The problem is the extreme becomes like a Frankenstein monster and turns the beauty of the idea ugly. And so that's why I'm saying, like, liver, for example, on a practical thing, and all the organ meats, like, you can take that shit to extreme. You can kill yourself for sure, or poison yourself slowly. So that's why I said the blood doesn't lie, man. Yeah. Everybody should test their blood like at least twice a year. And you go to the doctor and just say, I want all the extra stuff. Please give me the extra stuff. Because doctors now on insurance, they test for the minimum.
Yes. So this is something I'm actually doing because it's been forever since I did a checkup. Yeah, I'm just doing just a general thing, but they wanted to test for blood, and it was only like 4 things on there.
No, get mad at them. I go in there with a piece of paper, and I'm like, I want this. And they're like, we're not going to do it. I'm like, do this.
Yeah, they added it all in. And you just tell them what you want to test for, and they'll just type it in, and you're
Some of the big labs like Quest Labs or LabCorp, you can now order online, and you just add everything. And when the nurse comes, be like, is there any, make sure you, for example, a big one people don't, vitamin D. This is a game changer. So, and yes, you could take supplements, but when I lived in Puerto Rico, you get healthy. There's the reason Puerto Rico became famous is, you remember Ponce de Leon in history? He was trying to find the fountain of youth. There was a famous guy in the 1600s, and he went to Florida and didn't find it. I could have told him Florida ain't the fountain of youth. It's like everything in Florida wants to kill you, crocodiles and steak. But he ended up in Puerto Rico because the governor, and he died there. He lived there the rest of his life because there was the most Indians living into their hundreds. And part of it is there's always vitamin D. Vegas, where you are, is good for vitamin D. So there's an app. I'm not affiliated with it.
Like just sun?
Yes. There's this app called D-Minder right here.
Okay.
A NASA scientist made it. I'm not affiliated. I don't make it. I think it costs $5 a year or something. Dude, it's the best damn thing. Now, you want to know something scary? I actually said it wrong. You can't get vitamin D in Vegas for another 100 days because the sun's too low in the sky.
What?
Yeah. So basically, that's why native groups like migrated, like the Native Americans, like they would go south. You're healthier. It's a big thing. But you can take vitamin D, but it's never as good when you take it in
now, how do you balance that with like skin cancer?
So this vitamin, here's the crazy thing. When you're in good sun, you need, like, in Puerto Rico, I'd get 8 minutes of it. And this thing tells you exactly when you get too much. Crazy. So if you, for all you are like, I know you like scientific apps. This D-Minder, I want to buy this app from the dude because I don't think he's updated it since he built it. But it gives you your score.
Oh my gosh!
For 7, like I've been in Sweden, no vitamin D. The past 7 days is 40. I needed 77,000 units. I've only gotten 40,000 units. So I know I got to up my supplements. Vitamin D is a huge one. In fact, a lot of the COVID people that were anti-vaccine, they were like, you can just take vitamin D. Shit, I can believe it. Well, so you test your vitamin D. Make sure they don't add that. It's a crime. You want to be on the upper range of the recommended, right to the top.
I'm definitely not. I'll tell you that. I don't go outside.
Graham, he's a vampire.
I don't go outside.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll tell you what'll change your life. Do more business on the phone. Go in your backyard. Pace back and forth. Get this. I use an Aura ring. But what it'll tell you, it tells you if your sleep sucks. I always say what I learned from this $1 million body, I can sum up in like the 9 tenets of health. And I would say number 1 is sleep. Number 1 is sleep. Number 2 is walking. Number 2 is walking.
Believe that. I believe that was sleep.
Yeah. Honestly, I would believe that too.
I know we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, guys, this is just, I just have 2 things. One, thanks to our sponsor, Lexar. That's all I got to say.
Sponsor?
Oh, sorry.
Your
my
sponsor,
Lexar.
Alex.
So what's Lexar?
Oh, Ty.
Oh.
I'm so
Don't
glad
get
that
me
you
started
asked.
on this.
Lexar, they actually make SD cards, memory storage, SSDs. If you give me some info, I'll have them send you some stuff.
Send me some Lexars.
Oh,
We'll start-
I'm definitely going to send you some
Lexars.
Lexars. Yeah, for 100%.
All right, guys. Well, with that said, thank you so much.
Go to TyLopez.com/books. That's my free contribution to the world.
3 books.
No, it just tells you what books to buy.
Can you recommend 3 books? 3 of the most life-changing books you've read.
For business, Gary Keller, The One Thing. You know him from
Yep,
real estate. On how to focus.
Yep.
On psychology, I'll give you 4 for the 4 pillars of good life. So for business, Gary Keller, The One Thing is a great one. For health, The Story of the Human Body by this guy, Lieberman. It's a little more advanced book, but it's like a badass book for health. For love and friendship and romance and all that, Dr. David Buss' textbook called Evolutionary Psychology. It's a textbook, but it reads like a book. It's fascinating. And then for happiness, read Civilization and Its Discontents by Sigmund Freud. It is maybe the greatest 3 pages I've ever read. The second chapter is all you need to read. And it's on what's the purpose of life. It's the greatest 3 pages, I think. If you're a little more logical, it's not a super woo-woo one. So if you're more into the woo-woo, you won't like that. But that's my 4.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
This has been amazing, man.
I hope this was okay.
I really enjoyed this. I could go for another hour or two. We got another podcast right now. But man, if it weren't for that, we'd be going another hour.
It's good. Well, we'll have to do it again.
Oh, I'd love to.
I'll have to have you all on my podcast.
Yeah.
I have the ice.
The hot coffee.
I used to live in North Carolina.
Iced tea hour. That would be funny.
That would be the iced tea
That would
hour.
be funny. Just count it. We're in.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Well, thank you guys for watching.
Make sure to get your free stock down below in the description.
Check out the
public.com.
Patreon down
And
below.
follow me on
With that said, you guys
Instagram.
follow me on JLSSELBY. Thank you, Ty. And
Thank you.
See ya. I love that.
So that was okay?
That was such
That
a
was
good
incredible.
podcast.
I only believe in one type of real estate right now. I'm thinking about writing a check for $100 million and paying off $100 million worth of debt.
So you might know Ben Mala as being a $500 million man who owns a ton of real estate, but today he is losing $500,000 a month.
Well, now I got no protection, and now I'm paying $6 million a year.
He's a very successful real estate investor who grew up in the slums of Rockaway, New York, and today we're getting an inside look into exactly what's going on in the housing market, exactly what he's buying, and his entire rags to riches story on this episode of Make sure to subscribe and hit the like button and comment because it helps us out tremendously.
But before we get onto the podcast, I do want to say that we spend a lot of time talking about the importance of taking on proper debt and how crucial it is to have the capital that your business needs.
That brings us to today's sponsor, Fund & Grow, who offers a simple and hassle-free alternative to traditional financing. Fund & Grow understands how to help small businesses get the funding they need, even in today's economy. Like getting a bank loan today could be a nightmare.
You see, guys, there's tons of red tape and restrictions that seem to just exist for the sake of being annoying.
Like your mustache, right?
Okay.
You know, with Fund & Grow, I could use that money to create a razor company that you could then use to shave your mustache.
With their 12-month membership, you can secure up to $250,000 of credit at 0% interest. That is, of course, without giving up any equity in your company. But don't just take our word for it. Fund & Grow already has over 4,000 4.9-star reviews. And that's because thousands of entrepreneurs are seeing genuine results from that fast and simple funding.
And as a special offer for our listeners, Fund & Grow has prepared a business funding masterclass that will uncover the 5 steps to securing up to $250,000 in business credit.
And plus, Graham, as an exclusive offer, you'll receive $500 off of their services. So if you want to start expanding your business, visit Fund & Grow today using the link down below in the description and let them help you secure the funding your business needs.
Thank you so much, and now let's get to the episode.
This is the coffee table. It's got real coffee in it.
Well,
all right.
Welcome to the Iced Coffee Hour, Ben.
Thank you
really
very
appreciate
much.
you coming to Vegas for spring break.
Spring break, baby.
Why
Where else
not
do you take your kids?
Miami, right? San Diego, Santa Barbara. I feel like there's better places than Vegas for that. The weather is
you're
crappy.
here.
The
I
weather is
gotta come see
crappy
you.
outside, though.
It was freezing. I froze my ass off, and then it started raining on top of that. Yesterday,
Yeah.
we went to the Mob Museum.